Well, hello. Sorry, right when the timer ran down, I was taking a Zysol for allergies. So hopefully everyone's doing good. Thought we'd hang out. Hey, guys. Sun Bunny, Danette, Stuffy, JNDS. My little poor dead queen. Got my little poor dead queen. You see her, Charlie?
Yeah, I see her.
This is the one from the cutout yesterday. I found her dead.
Hi.
So I gave her some
queen.
cells. Yeah, I gave her some cells. So some cells. So we'll see what happens with them. But cutouts, I'm not too worried about. I mean, if they're huge, great. You know, the cutout that I did that had a lot of bee soup earlier in the year, it's doing fine. It's already got a super on it. So, you know, that to me, yes, saving the bees is the primary objective. However, that's for us, right? That's our primary objective. The customer's primary objective is get the bees out their house. So that's that was the goal. So we got that out yesterday. Charlie and I were talking about going live, and then, you know, last night when I was contemplating getting on live, I saw where Ed, son of one, was live, and I'm like, when he got done, I was like, you know, I don't even feel like going live anymore. So I was just like, I'm gonna go watch some TV. So we vegged out and watched some TV, and did that. And then it started raining like really bad around 10 o'clock last night, and was pretty much raining all day.
That's what it did here today. It rained, and that little short I put up, the one that you seen where I had brushed them in the box. Well, they decided they didn't like their new house, so they left. The other one, they stayed. So I had got up early this morning and put it on the rack. And then I gave it some, I took some what do you call it? Pro Sweet,
Right.
half a quart of that, half of it water, and a thing of Apis Biologic in there, and shook it all up and fed them. And by the time I just got it ratchet strapped down, here comes the rain, and it's been raining all day. And now I think it's just starting to go away. Now I got a question, J and DS. What is your name? I asked Bob today because I keep a list.
And I said, you know, I know he's posted it, but for the life of me, I can't remember it.
And hey, James, good
yeah,
to see you.
Yeah, come on in if you got a second, James. We'd like to catch up with you too.
And it's Jack.
Jack, write it on your. Yeah, I see you writing it down there. That's.
And where are you from, Jade? Jack, what state are you from?
Cool, Phil. Glad to see that. Yeah, you know, the orders have slowed down drastically on the Amazon. Charlie did me a solid. He went to a bee meeting yesterday, and he talked about the pins and the lure and the Apis, and magically I got 2 orders from Maryland of people that he knows on the Beewares website.
Actually, Brian Bender, he actually comes on my stream. I told him about your stream. I said to sign up yours and Lee's. You know, he's got about 80 some hives, trying to go to about 200.
Should have ordered the big pack because he's going to feed it once and be done.
He's from Wyoming, Jack is.
And
Big Sky State or whatever it's called out there, where the horses is.
And so, yeah, just been, you know, being a normal person this weekend. It's unusual.
Now, Jack, being out in Wyoming, I mean, usually I kind of been out there, and I think it's a lot of desert, isn't it?
It's prairie like land, right? Just fields.
Yeah, but I'm thinking about.
I went down I-80, and it was like just like flat. Well, not really flat, because that's where the deers and the antelopes play out that way.
Well, I'm looking about like flowers and nectar sources and stuff like that. I was wondering what kind of you know, available for his bees out there.
Charlie, I did contact that realtor, but they haven't got back with me on that place, so we'll see.
Yeah. Well, I just got off the phone with Brian from Flower Street. I had sent him an email about insurance for get some information about that for my club. So we had a nice little chat. He's enjoying dinner right now. Hopefully they got his order right.
Rabbit brush is our main flow.
I don't even know what that is. Is that tumbleweed?
Now I gotta Google it.
I don't know. Hold on. I got a phone call. Hold on.
You always get a phone call. Let me see. Rabbit brush. It's a yellow, part of the chrysanthemum plant. Let me see. Rubber rabbit brush. Let's see if I can pull it. Oh, really? That's the biggest picture they got? There we go. All right, so let's see. This is rabbit brush because I don't know what it was. Didn't know. Rabbit brush. That's kind of cool. It loads the boxes up. Last food of the year for you, huh, Brian? I've never seen that over here. All right, well, that's cool. Charlie's a silent movie. But yeah, just I've been looking at a place. It's kind of got me interested, but I don't know. So I'm gonna check it out. It's a fixer-upper. I'll show it to you guys, but don't be judgmental because I don't have any interior photos, guys. No interior photos, just terrible exterior photos. And I couldn't show Charlie before, so
I'm back.
So we'll show them now. Don't do like some of my viewers, and when I say something, undercut me on something, or cut me out of it by going to the people that I said I was doing business with and do business behind my back. Don't do that for me. But hold on.
What's going on?
I'm gonna show that place that I was talking to you about. So it's a 4-bedroom, 1.5 bath. It's not far from where I'm at now. It needs work. So the main thing is that intrigued me is it's 2.68 acres. So it's almost a 3-acre lot. And that was the most, I understand paint and work would have to go into it.
It looks to be vinyl or German siding.
Yeah.
A good power washing would make it look
paint on them posts, right?
Well, you need to power wash all that green stuff on there. Get a power washer and wash that stuff off.
And hey, look at that. I thought that would not be any good because of the deck underneath that carport. But then I'm like, but man, bee boxes would stack great in there. Wouldn't they stack great in there if that moss was gone or that vine? So there's really not, and windows and stuff need to be fixed, obviously. But at any rate, I know that going in, if I get it, it's more about the property size. And then when you look at the map, let's see. So to give you an idea, let's blow it up a little bit. So, it had, no. Oh, I thought it was going to let me get, there we go. Street view. Boom. Street view. So obviously it needs mowed, right? But
Well,
that would be a
that's one of them natural lawns.
natural lawns that haven't been
Yeah,
mowed.
that's one of those pollinator garden lawns.
But
You got looks like some not ragweed, but oh, what's the stuff in the fall?
oh, a goldenrod.
Goldenrod.
But it's a little bit of everything, right? Well, that would be my apiary, though, right? In the front yard, and just mow it down, and then obviously you could come right in from here, past. Oh, what happened? Hold on, that's good. What happened to the photo?
Hmm.
Nope, that's the other photo. Oh well, I have to look at it again. Street view. I guess it's not gonna let me do it. What's going on here? Oh, it says my page became unresponsive. But the other thing that I wanted to show you that it's not going to let me do. Let me see if I can refresh the page. It's not going to do it.
Well, we got the gist.
Anyway, that road that it sits on, like this is a main road, and then this road that it's on the corner of, if you go to the end and down just a little bit, is where Sam's place is. And my current place is up north of there a little bit. I did break it, apparently. Apparently, I broke it, but I don't know. I just gave the agent a note to give me a call, see if I can get some pictures of the inside and what kind of work we're talking about in there.
A lot.
Yeah, but here's the thing. So I'm paying, like I said, I'm paying $400 a month for a storage unit that doesn't have 3 acres with it, right? I mean, so by that time, I just paid off my wife's car. So for the difference between my storage unit and my wife's car we just paid off, we would have a house with 3 acres on it. So,
well, I got somebody in there with a I don't know, a forestry brush hog or something like that to knock all that. I mean, that stuff is 3 foot tall. You're not mowing that with a lawnmower.
My riding lawnmower won't do it?
No. You got to get yourself a bush hog or one of them machines that they use in the forestry where it's a rotary frail chopper to grind that kind of stuff down.
Let me see.
You'll have to hire somebody to do that, to get it knocked down. Hey, Tim, Hannah, Bill.
Oh, and the best part is it's a couple miles away from a nudist resort. Yeah. So that's a little comic relief there.
Yeah, I don't know what an open face twin mower is. But you can get one
pull behind that you like drag behind a.
That's like a bush hog. That's a big rotary mower. You could probably do it with a rotary mower pretty good, but a frail mower would be a little more. It would do the job a little bit better, I think, as heavy as it is.
Yeah, they don't. I mean, I don't know why you would list a house with no photos of the inside, unless it's just that bad, right? Probably that bad. I'm hoping not, but anything's possible. Ceilings down, stuff like that. And
anyway, so it's rained at your place today, did it?
Oh, he's talking about an open face twine mower, weed eater.
Oh,
weed eat it all down, and then
no.
And then I've done that. The problem is your back hurts after a little bit.
No, not a weed eater. I mean, we're talking industrial here on that. I mean, I've been there. You know, I know what I'm talking about when it comes to that kind of machinery. You're looking like if I don't know what you all have them down there, but like the State Highways Administration will have one that hangs off the side of the tractor. It's not
Where they just lay it down and
lay it down, and the blades spin this way. It's actually a set of knives. It's like an L with a blade, and it spins, and it's called a frail mower.
yeah. Russell says rent a bush hog. So I mean,
Now you got to have a tractor and everything else. You know, have somebody else do it. You don't know what's in there. You might have a tar get snagged and whatever else.
My thing is, I don't know. See, here's the problem that I have with buying a home. I'll be 53 next month, right? That means I'd be 83 before this house is paid off.
And then you got an albatross around your neck that you got a payment every month.
The damn anchor, right? So, I don't know. I could sell my pickup truck, put it towards the house. so it's don't get me wrong, and don't think I wouldn't go. Y'all saw a hand chop down a tree last year with axe. So when my chainsaw failed me, I went to accident.
Darren says sell more nukes. That's true.
Have to sell a shit ton of nukes to pay for it, though. But you know, so that's just something in the back of my mind. I mean, and then Charlie said, "There you go, throw a building up. Now you got your store right there on your property. Beekeeping supplies.
As long as the government allow you to do something like that."
Hey, I won't tell them. Just start doing it.
Well, Dan, a sickle bar mower, it wouldn't be too bad, but in that situation, I like to grind that stuff up into fine particles. If you do a sickle bar mower, then you got to rake it and bale it.
Well, my Husqvarna riding lawnmower, once I replaced those blades, man, it sucked everything up like a vacuum cleaner off the ground.
Well, you're not going to suck 3 foot of hay up. It's just
do it, then ask for
you're going to burn your Husqvarna up.
Really?
Beyond. Oh yeah. You'll burn up a mower like that with something. It's not made to do that.
Well, I got a friend that owns a rental shop down the road.
I would find somebody that has that kind of equipment and let them do it.
Well, Sam, who would be close, got a tractor that's probably got a pull behind, one of them pull behind mower deals. I don't know. We're worried about cutting the grass on a property I don't even own. That's the funny part. But it would be, be nice to be able to put more bees out there.
Yeah.
That's, of course, if you have time to actually to look at it, to do anything.
To work your bees.
Work the bees and work the, do the improvements, right?
Well, that's just it. Somebody here just made that statement. A lot of work.
Yeah. Well, this place we live in is a lot of work too. And the unknown is what's going to happen when something happens to my mom. Am I stuck having to get another place anyway because of my sisters? Don't know. Don't know what's going to happen. But it's just one of those things that we got to figure out.
Right.
If that's going to happen or not. But
so what's everybody else doing out there on the side chat there as far as your bees? Did you have any decent weather? I know here let's see what
Brian was putting a bunch of shorts up from different apiaries today.
Yeah, Brian was saying he was working bees all day today. And here it was raining all day today. Yesterday, Actually, let's see, what was it? Friday it rained all day. Then it cleared out and we had it overcast Saturday, no rain, which they were predicting rain throughout the day. It did have some showers occasionally. I mean, maybe a couple minutes worth and then it would quit. And then in the evening, like I say, I went out and I mowed the grass out here at this apiary here and behind me, and I checked on nukes. I found another virgin queen walking around, and found me 2 big old swarms. I don't know whether they were swarms with virgin queens in them or not, and we'll see here in a couple weeks. And then my queens didn't come in. I'm glad he didn't, because of the way the weather was.
Did he not send them out, or he didn't bring them?
I don't know.
So they could be sitting at the hub waiting to get delivered to you.
Yeah.
Hopefully they make it.
Well, when they say overnight, that's what I was told they were going to be sent overnight. Who knows? But Tim says, beautiful day, 40-mile winds. Couldn't get in the bees today, that's for sure. Brian said he caught his first swarm today.
Gave it to the kid who works with him.
Yeah.
Nice. Spreading the bees. Spreading the bees around. That's kind of the thing now is you told me about those frames, so I'm going to try to get those from that fella.
Yeah, let everybody, I had a neighbor up here that he had some frames. They're pretty much all brand new. Now, some of them you might have to assemble. He said he had a box of them that he's never been open. So,
well, hopefully the shipping ain't crazy, but.
Well, he was going to look into that tomorrow, I guess. I said, I got one big rate. He said, well, it might be cheaper to put 2 boxes instead of 1 big box.
And then figure out how I'm going to pay him. I mean, how he's going to get the money. I mean, I can definitely.
Right.
Get it. We'll figure that out. And then I was looking at that site over on, I was in a member of a group just like that. And a similar name, but it's a different
did you see the thing I shared to you about out there in the Midwest, acorn frames?
Yeah, but did you see where it said you got to buy at least 10 boxes?
Yeah, well, 5 boxes.
Do you have to pick them up, or do they have to ship them?
I guess they'd have to ship them. But then I looked at one of the dates. The darn things were made back in 2021, 22, maybe. Yeah, 21. So I'm thinking to myself, well, the wax is dried up and crap to begin with.
I saw one on there had a 60 frame. There it is. No, 84 frame Honey Master segment reel extractor from Dadant. 84 frame. I have 2 control boxes, one that's 3 years old and one that's been refurbished. Works great. Just went in to an inline extractor. It's in Kansas. So if you're in Kansas and need an 84 frame extractor for $5,500, that's a good deal.
Mike says, no crap, Charlie. 2021. I'm like, yeah, that's what it said on the packaging slip. I'm thinking to myself, the wax is dried up and everything else.
Let me see. Idaho's got a bunch of good used equipment, I guess. $12 a box with no frames. They're 8 framers if you're near Boise. And they said they're going up to Northern California at the end of the week. Oh, that was a couple weeks ago, though. Can deliver 200, 400 plus are available.
Yeah, I've seen that. Brian says he's got 4 Jose Queens left. Anybody else have them? I wonder how they work, whether they're good or not.
I got them last year, but I don't know which colonies they were in at that point. At this point, because I didn't mark
That's
them and
like
everything.
last year, a guy down there at Georgia sold me a Russian. He wanted me to take a Russian. And I've had Russians in the past, and when I first started out, and the problem with them is they have a much different characteristic than like a Italian, where Russians will stop laying if there's a nectar dearth, you swear you went queenless because they will not lay anything. And some people look at it as a good trait, and they go into the winter with a very small cluster, and they swarm at about at a blink of an eye constantly. Is what they tell me.
Russians do.
I had yeah. So anyway, I had it, and I think I sold it to somebody and got rid of it.
But right now, I mean, I mean, our main flow hasn't hit yet. It'll start hitting in the next few weeks if this rain,
Yeah, our main flow is locust and poplar, and it kind of comes simultaneously anymore. It used to be so many weeks of one tree and then the next tree. Now it's kind of blended together, and they're talking about they think they're starting to see trees here and there. There was a tree I seen yesterday, and it kind of looked like a locust tree, but it was more of a it was like fingers hanging down like that instead of like locust is like grapes hanging down the blossom.
Well, some of the fingers hanging down here are like Chinese chestnut trees.
I think that's what it was. It was either a Chinese chestnut or um Polonia or something like that. I'm not sure.
You're going to West Virginia. Here's one of them junior wax spinners.
Yeah, I seen that $1,000 for one of them. I know, and that's Berkeley, West Virginia, which is not too far from me. That's a couple hours, I think. I forget how. I forget how you get to Berkeley. I think you go up to Hagerstown or someplace in there.
Des Moines, Iowa. Frames of brood. They're selling frames with brood only. $25 a frame for a frame of cap brood.
I've never heard of that.
Especially, how do you get it home and keep it warm in the process? Mm-hmm. But I guess if you're
Joe says he's got buckeye blooming, but I don't think I've ever seen. That's a buckeye tree?
Yeah, like the big buckeyes that they get in Ohio.
Okay. I guess that's kind of like a chestnut tree.
New Hampshire packages, $150. Wax.
So, Mike, is Minnesota still cold as iceberg up there, or is it finally melted? Hey, Phil.
But yeah, there's a lot of stuff on here, but some of it's not brand new. It's a little bit old. So, but yeah, that's a good site. I like to see stuff pop up in the feed there.
I've never heard of a Toby tree.
Toby tree?
Toby?
I don't know. We need to search that. Toby tree.
Hey, Rex.
Gotta get one with a good high def. Well, of course not. I don't want to buy a photo. I just want to look at it. The cigar tree. Toby's the cigar tree. Western Pennsylvania.
Is that the long with a long bean?
Yeah. It's got a long bean looking tree on it.
The one we got out here's got those beans and with a great big leaf, but they're called catalba trees. There's Mike.
Hey, Catawba. I've heard of those.
Catalba, as I guess you
Yeah,
call it.
I can't. 8 ways from Sunday to pronounce it.
It's got like a real long bean, about 12, 14 inches long. It's
My
about
neighbor has
about a
one.
half inch in diameter, something
Yeah.
like that. And then when they get old, they kind of like get a brown look to it. Steve's got it.
Yeah, and at least my neighbors here has got these massive flowers when they do bloom. I mean, they're just huge. Probably about 4, 5, 6 inches across.
What's
Might
the
not be
weather
talking
like up
about the
there?
same
Have you
one.
rid your snow and all that yet?
We actually got rid of the last bit of snow yesterday. A little pile up at the store.
What kind of temperatures are you running now?
Really moderate. I think we're at currently at 45 degrees right now. It's blowing off the lake. Strong winds today, and then Tuesday we're going to start warming up. Now you're going to get some of our cold stuff shortly after that, Charlie. But that's
Yeah, I looked at the weather, I'll say the month forecast, and this coming week, it's going to be still in the 60s. And then the rest of May, we're looking at during the daytime, 75 degrees.
man. Wouldn't it be interesting if you had a mild summer after a mild winter?
Yeah.
That's what it's looking like so far here. I mean, we've got nights
Really?
this week where it's going to be in the high 40s
Yeah, Dan Weaver says that
that
the
night. Yeah.
catalba tree that I have is a nickname is a Toby.
Thanks, guys.
Same thing.
And the
Okay. How did
He's
I-
up there around. He's south of Philadelphia, I think it is.
Yeah, come to think of it, we had one of those trees out in front of a Depression work area
Pittsburgh. not Philadelphia.
project, our elementary school where I went to. And I look at those things, they have these long beans on them, but they were kind of neat. Catawba.
Catalba.
Say, you guys were talking about some queens bought, California queens?
oh yeah,
Yeah, Brian from Baked Acres he had some Jose queens, and then Bob Bear killed a queen.
Well, I wait a second.
Is that a queen?
Do you do that as a hobby?
this was out of the cutout. I went back to check for the queen. It was in the bottom. So,
Okay.
I gave him a frame of brood with 2 queen cells on it. So hopefully they, took good care of them. Oh, wait a minute. I got a marker. Everyone's been on me about marking my queens. So since she was a swarm queen, she's probably from last year, right?
I think so, but you never know.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So if she was a last year queen, we'll get the
yellow out.
out for her.
Wait, are you going to have to take the collar off of her to mark her?
Grab her on the ad right there.
Queen mark.
There you go. She's got a perfect yellow mark. We'll be able to
That
find
is such
her.
a beautiful job there.
We'll be able to find her every time now.
Anyways, the reason I brought it up is that somebody in the audience had gotten 2 queens from Jose, and one of them didn't last the winter, and the other one was a hot hive. And I said, just write to him and let him know. It's not a complaint per se, but if it's a batch that he can backtrack, let him know the results on it. I've heard other people, of course, have had good luck with him, and I was going to encourage people to do that. If you have a bad product or, one thing or another, get a hold of people, let them know. If they choose to replace them, that's fine. But if nothing else, you're helping them with a certain amount of feedback. So, be positive.
I bought 25 queens from him last year, but between me selling them and re-queening stuff,
You were busy.
I don't know what I got. Which queens were which, but
Yeah.
I'm thinking that
bought
the hive that triple deep that I split into
I'll be
5
back.
nukes. I'm thinking that was one of his,
Okay.
and it's doing good. I just
Good.
can't. I can't confirm that the other ones are or aren't his. So I didn't do a
Yeah.
very good job last year of, keeping notes on that stuff. But
Yeah. Those little notebooks are something we should all get a little bit more attentive to. Hey, Philip, please say hi to your mom for me.
all right, her spot's dry. I can put her back in the hive now.
Are you sure?
Yep, they won't be able to chew that off.
I don't know.
That competitive advantage market pin worked great.
Oh my goodness! Now is that the? Wait a sec. Is that the American-made pen that Bob Binney turned us all onto?
Yep, and I sell it on my website.
Wonderful. Yeah, I need to get a couple of those.
You can buy the whole pack for what you pay for Posco, one Posco pen, or two of them actually.
It's really interesting. It's really interesting.
Posco wants I think they're about $7-8 a piece, something like that.
And I got
you can buy the whole set for $19.99.
So,
man, that's just crazy. Good. That's really
crazy. I bought a bee suit here a while back, about a month or so ago. Now I guess it's been almost 2 months. It was a Comfort Pro, I think, but I don't know. It just didn't work out for me. I never even got it out in the yard. Like the thumb strap broke before as I was putting it on. And I'm like, and then I looked at the wristlet, the elastic, it wasn't tight. And I'm like, I'm spending $100 and some for this thing, and it's already falling apart, and I haven't even used it yet. And I'm like, all right, I'm done. So I sent it back, and no problem. They backed it up and gave me my money back.
I just broke my new jacket. I broke the pocket, because when I was doing the cutout, it was right up against the brick fireplace.
Oh no!
And a brick caught the mesh pocket and tugged a little hole in it. So it's all good. I don't use pockets too much, but
that one that you got, Bob, is like $160.
Yeah, but that's
and I'll tell you, they're all made overseas, as far as I know, and they're the guy that you're getting these frames from. He's got one of them. It's an Amazon code. It's called what is it called? Beware. No.
It's my site.
Yeah, no, let me look. I have to look it up.
I have no desire to carry suits on my site, because you can't just carry a suit. You have to carry a suit in each of the different sizes, right? And then you have to have multiples of those. So it seems like a big investment.
Yeah.
Say Tim made a comment about the Catawba. He says we used to get some fine fish bait from them puppies. What bugs that were on them or something like that?
Oh yeah, they make a caterpillar.
Thank you very much. So what the hell's the suit that I've got? It's made in the United States. It's Easy Breeze or Breeze Through
Ultra Breeze.
Provet? Ultra Breeze.
Ultra Breeze is made in Oklahoma.
Okay. I've been so damn happy with that thing. My only complaint about it is it does keep me really cool in a really heavy heat. But it's physically heavy. And that's fine. And Russell, yeah, you're late. By the way, we're going to sign off now. Russell, thanks for stopping by, but we're done.
I will have to say my Provent that I've been wearing from Man Lake, it's the same as the Comfort Pro, same material. It's a real thin material. It's not triple layered, and it works. It's really nice. It's a really light suit. And the only problem I find is that fencing veil will go against your cheeks, and then they'll try to sting you.
No,
but it's got too many ribs on it up here. It needs to be like 2 ribs or 1 rib. But the one from Amazon is Brutal Bee, and it's a 3-layer job, just like all the rest of them. Jacket for $75, and it's like the guy up quarter mile from my house has got one. I'm gonna have to take a look at it a little bit closer, as far as how well it's made and how it's put together and whatever. And
well, I'm definitely tough on mine, so I've learned, I went through 2 Guardians over a year, and then and then this year got the Ultra Breeze. So yeah, I wore a ball cap under my fencing jail yesterday, and it got so sweated up. It's dry now, but it got really sweated up, and then swapped my other hat cap
Hey,
to
Joseph.
Rooster, and it got sweated up. But it was busy.
Russell was
I don't know. I haven't been to Blythewood in over a month. I called them twice to inquire about getting frames. I wanted to come get frames, and they said, "Oh, we're waiting on an order from Acorn." Great. Called them back 2 weeks later. Hey, I need these frames. Oh, I'm waiting on an order. We're still waiting on the order from Acorn. I was like, all right, never mind.
Hey,
I can
Steve.
order myself, if I need to. Right, Carl. That's how we do
There
things.
he is.
We want instant gratification.
Yeah, and that and some frames that aren't 3 years old, Charlie.
Yeah, I know. Where are you going, Carl?
He might still be having net problems, issues.
Yeah. Say, I put that. What do we have, Mike? I have bees again, newly installed local nukes. Oh, no kidding. Okay. Well, good for you, DC.
I'll feed the shucks out of them.
But I wanted to point out to a bunch of folks that if you get a tear in a bee suit, we've been using this stuff now for about 8 years. It's called shoe goo, and there's all sorts of and you can get shoe goop, and so on. But shoe goo, I think they're fairly similar. But shoe goo is the genuine stuff. It was originally made for skateboarders once the soles of their tennis shoes came off, and we've actually used that to repair cracks in anything from fiberglass to whatever. One of my friends, he tears his jeans up, he puts it on there. People go, "What the heck is that?" And the thing is that it outlasts the material. It will not come off. So it's not pretty. It's really not. It's like you're putting really thick rubber cement on it, but this stuff is bulletproof, fantastic. So if you get a tear in your suit, you can take the time to patch it, but yeah, old time patch and iron. Yeah, you can do that. But I tell you what, the shoe goo you can even use the shoe goo to hold the patch on there too. So there's another option. So had to put that on there because I've yet to have it fail.
You good, Carl? Can you hear us?
I don't think he can hear us.
Carl.
Must not. Sometimes that happens if I was using my headphones and forgot to switch it in the settings when I come in.
What do we have here? I would just keep sweating my butt off on my cotton duck suit. Dan, whatever works for you, man. Amen, brother.
You there, Carl?
Yeah, I finally got it straightened out.
Oh, wonderful.
Good to see you.
Good to see you. Haven't seen you for a while.
All the controls to get everything figured out finally.
That's good.
It happens.
So what's going on, guys?
Not much. I guess it rained up where you're at this today. No?
Rained? It's still raining. We've been raining for like 30 hours straight now.
Yeah. Yeah, it's...
No, where are you, Carl?
He's up in
Northeast PA.
He's up there
like
where
I'm
Mare
right
Lake's
up around
going
Northeast
broke.
PA, Wilkes-Barre, Scranton area.
Oh, okay.
So...
Yeah. You want to come?
I actually just opened the front door and it was torrentially pouring once again still. So
Well, it's pulling away from here. Part of it's going out into the ocean and it's kind of split and going up towards you.
yeah, I'm enjoying every second of it. Thank God I spent my $50 on Amazon 2 weeks ago and bought an incubator and put queen cells in it.
So, you buy a chicken incubator or you bought some other kind of incubator?
Oh, I bought the cheapest piece of shit you can buy. So, $55 and I have my meat
You mean
thermometer
you
in it
didn't
to make
go
sure I
to
keep my temperature.
Stromberg's and get yourself an incubator there?
I got something cheap, and we'll see how this works out.
Hey, as long as it
So
keeps the temperature and you can track the humidity, it should work.
I'm keeping water in it, and humidity seems good, and temperature according to the controls and the meat thermometer, I'm staying right at 93. So it all seems good now. I got about another 2 days to see what starts popping.
So it's been cold up there, hasn't it?
Yeah, I put these to go when it was 75 degrees, and I had 3 days, and then we went down into the upper 50s,
Yeah.
and then we went to the 40s, and
Yeah. And then it's
and
about 37.
yeah, oh yeah. I had frost like 4 days. So, but I pulled the queen cells out. They looked great, and being the Polish crazy guy I am, me and the wife grafted another 45 and put them in there. And I said we have to learn one way or another, and get what we can get, and it's a learning process.
What's your percentage did you get
Um,
capped?
I put 45 in myself. I got home on a Friday 2 weeks ago, a week and a half ago, and I put them in on a Friday. And out of the 45, I got 25.
About 50%.
So yeah,
It's about what I did 30 a week ago, and I pulled out, I think, 15. Like you
Yeah,
said, as soon as you grafted on a Sunday, then the rest of that week it went right down at nighttime, anywhere from 37 degrees to 40, and I don't like it below 50 at night. And luckily, I did have a high that was pretty darn strong, and I was
yeah,
hoping that they clustered tight around themselves to keep them warm. And I looked at them as I was putting them in the incubator here. Oh, it was raining, torrential rains Friday when I was supposed to do it. So I went out there first thing Saturday morning, and I put them in the incubator and into the hair roller cages because I'm gonna let them hatch out. And they had jelly in them and stuff. So I said, okay, at least I got jelly. I can see jelly in the cups. So we're gonna, like you say, this coming Friday, I'll see what I get.
yeah. Because I put the other batch in, and I didn't see a lot of jelly in mine, which I wasn't happy about. But this is only the third time I'm trying it. So
Did you put a pollen patty and pollen
oh yeah,
frames
yep,
and you
yep. I had feed.
put in sugar water?
Yep, yep. I had all the goodies I can put in there,
Yeah,
and
well, I mean, I had a frame of nectar and I had a frame of good pollen on both sides, on the other side, and the hive was queenless for a while, so they definitely wanted to get a queen.
yeah.
So
I wasn't planning on doing this for another month, to be honest with you.
yeah, it's like I talked to my friend who's been at it for years, and he said, don't even think about it until May, where we live at.
Yeah,
And May, June, like we were just discussing here, not this coming week, but the following weeks after that. In May, it'll be in the 75s during the day, and it'll be in the 60s at night. 55, 60s at night is what they're predicting, if they know what they're talking about. And
yeah.
that's more conducive of a better grafting rate. I got
Well,
one club up in Pennsylvania there, and they're always talking about April 15th, they're going to start grafting. And I don't know, maybe they do build their cell builder up pretty super strong, and they do seem to have some success. But then I'm also looking at drones. What kind of
well,
drones
that's what
that?
I was looking at. I was looking at the drones and that because I went in the winter with 20 plus hives, and I came out with 14 strong hives, and I was watching the drones, and they were popping like crazy the first week of April. And the second week of April, we had that stretch here where it was late upper 70s and 80s,
Right. We
and
had that
I
one
just
week.
yep,
That
and it
one
just
week.
exploded. And the next week was pretty fair too. And what happened that first week was I got greedy, and I took 4 hives and I split it 4 waves. So I ended up splitting off, I think, 10 different uh, 3 and 4 frame nucleus colonies I split off. And out of them, every one of them have what appears in 3 weeks have virgin queens, or I know there's queens in them. They didn't start laying yet. Out of the 12 or 13, I think I came back at 11, where there's queens in them, but they're not laying yet. But the weather has, ever since I did that, we had a week and a half of good weather, and then we turned nothing but crap. So I'm rolling the dice, and my opinion is, if it doesn't work out, I have 3 and 4 frame nukes that I'll just put back into other hives and work them out that way, And if not, I have these queen cells in here in the incubator, and if they start panning out, I'll just reincorporate them right back in there to keep those going, So I'm trying, and I'm trying to learn, and I'm trying to keep working it out and keep going, If you don't try, how do you learn?
That's it.
So,
Well, it's just like you and I both are in the kind of the same region, and you get guys like Mark that's grafting out there in western Tennessee, but west of Nashville. And you got
been done grafting for a month.
yeah,
and then you've been
I
grafting.
was jealous of you, Bob. I was
And
jealous.
then Natalie, Beekeeping with Natalie, she had 100% graft. She's out there, I think, in Illinois or someplace out in the Midwest, someplace. And all these people were grafting. Well, they're 6 weeks ahead of us in Maryland and Pennsylvania, easy.
Yeah.
Maybe 8 weeks in weather conditions. And we're like, man, we feel like we're lacking, and we should be grafting just like everybody else. But it's our weather condition. We May, June, and July, and we're done for grafting.
Yeah, we have a short season really. When it comes to it, like I said, I wasn't planning on doing this until mid-May. But when I split off these hives, I had this one hive that even after I split it off, I took, I think, 4 splits off of it. And I was still 2 deeps, and they were packed with bees. And I had a honey super on top of it. And I opened it the one day, and I was like, I still have 4 frames with queen cells. So I took and I split it off 2 more ways, and I went, you know what? The weather's looking really good. I shook them all down into one box, and I pulled 2 frames from 2 good other hives that were doing well, and I grafted from that. And I got to tell you, Northeast PA, to have 25 out of 45, not even in the May. I don't know if I'll ever be able to do it again, but who knows? Global warming, like they're saying, who knows? So.
Well, how's your drone population there, Carl?
That's the only reason I did what I did, because it was not the first week of April, and I was already seeing where I had capped over drone population in like 7 different hives. And the first week of April, I was seeing the drones walking around. Now that they were not where they were out flying and everything, but they were walking around the hives and that. So it was the second week of April when I did this. So the way I looked at it, I already know that in 5 to 7 hives, I was seeing drones walking around in that. So I figured, hey, by the time I graft, it's going to be another, 2-3 weeks until they, tweets. So I'm rolling the dice. I mean, will it work? I don't know. It might be a big failure, but if it works 50%, I think I'm doing pretty well. So, I know, Mike, you're up there in Minnesota, and you're dealing with the crap weather too. I think I heard you say that you finally lost your snowpack. So.
Well, we had one small patch of snow in the neighbor's yard, and then finally left. But it was pretty funny because I looked over and I thought someone had left some trash in the yard, and no, it was just a little bit of the snow. I'm like, okay, because I was walking over there to pick it up. I God bless you there, Carl. My only hesitation about any kind of early queens is I want some, and I know you deal with this, but to have really, really heavy queens so that they'll lay up a lot of nurse bees for winter. and come out of the spring. And, it's, if you can get them really fantastically, bred by multiple drones, go for it. And if you can, Russell and I were talking, I think it was yesterday or Friday morning. And I said, something, I think I'm finally just done with this situation here. I think I am definitely going to be replacing all my queens every year. I just can't deal with some queens that just have not laid up enough nurse bees and then, aren't producing the strong bees in the spring. And, any queen that you put in there, there's a chance that's going to happen. But as the older the queens get, so that's going to be a major move in my direction here.
Yeah.
So just my 2 cents there. There's, by the way, there's something kind of funny that I ran into here. I had no idea that a pollen dearth is one of the triggers for nurse bees. And if you think about it, that actually makes a lot of sense, because you start feeding somebody just a shitload of bread and no protein, they'll put on body fat. Well, apparently the bees are the same way. Well, traditionally we put on pollen patties in the fall and whatnot, and I think that's really inhibited our nurse bee population. So we're not going to do that.
Why do you put pollen in the fall?
Because the remaining bees that are bred, we wanted them to be nice and strong. And that was the reasoning behind that. And looking back on it now and finding out what the actual triggers are for, one of the big triggers for nurse bee population is that, no, that ain't going to happen. We are not going to do that. So that's just something to throw up there. Just speaking of bees overwintering. Sorry for the diatribe.
No, that's fine. Mike, I look at it this way. I watch a lot of these videos and stuff, and I try not to be too opinionated. But the one thing that I try and take in is, the great thing about what we're doing here is we're getting perspectives from a lot of different areas of the country. And I'm trying to take it in personally and look at what people are seeing in other areas and try it in different areas, and you might find those things. And I know one of the things I'm in this for almost 5 years now. And the one thing that I do remember day one was you ask 5 different beekeepers one question, you're going to get 10 different answers. So,
yeah.
Take it trial and error, try stuff and see what works for you and iron it out. And I'm doing okay. I'm not going to complain, and I found some things that worked really well for me, and other things that people are saying, oh, this is the way to do it, and that they won't do it. The bees won't do it.
No.
To do it, So
No.
I'm looking for the information, and if I say something and somebody says, well, he's an idiot, but you know what, it might be working for me, and there might be somebody 10 miles down the road from that guy that works great for. Who knows? So
yeah. I used to have a mantra here on the Lee Bob show here. Beekeeping is regional.
Yep.
And as long as we keep that in mind, it will help all of us understand a little bit more, what everybody else has got going on. It's like when you feeding your bees, how you raising your winter bees, and so on and so forth. So very, very astute observation there, Carl. By the way, I have to ask you something. Have you ever put honey in brats?
I'm sorry?
Have you ever put honey in bratwurst?
I have not. But I got to tell you what, you're on the right track. You know that I'm Polish, and I'm going to go for brats, sausage, kielbasa, and other things like that. And since I started doing this, I've put honey on just about anything and everything. So.
Well, I have to let you a little secret here. If you put honey in your bratwurst, they can caramelize and blacken a little bit early. So just be careful with it. And they're delicious. But yeah. Anyways, I do the Southern Bee way. Yeah, Bugman. Yeah, and Tex. Yeah, it's really interesting. because we'll get people, and we have people. It gets really kind of crazy. I ran into a guy's video in northern Wisconsin, and up by the Great Lakes, and he was shaking all of his bees down into his lower box and putting a queen excluder in, and there's like still 1.5 feet of snow on the ground. And I had to ask him, "What are you doing?" And his response was really interesting. It was, "I have such a hard time getting my bees to move to the lower box." And I got to thinking about that, and I'm trying to be polite, but in the back of my brain pan, I'm thinking, well, you dumb F. It's so cold that they don't want to go down there. They're staying in the upper.
Yeah.
It's so bloody obvious, but I think this was the same guy it might not have been the same guy that wasn't using a smoker. Get ready for this. He said he didn't want to use a smoker because, as Bob exhales there,
Yeah, I caught that actually.
he didn't want to use a smoker. Charlie, he said because he didn't want his bees to get used to the smoke. I am not beep kidding. And I saw that and I thought, I didn't know idea what
like when I first started, there was this lady that we were working with about making. We didn't know what they were. They were top bar hives, is what they were. Anyway, she's going to do the natural way and all this other stuff. Well, you don't want to smoke your bees. That's going to do something to them. I forget what she said. And I'm like, beekeepers have been using smoke to manipulate their bees with for 100 years at least.
Thousands.
Well, yeah, that's true. That's right, because you've had cliff writings way back when and all that.
Yeah.
I mean,
Y'all trying to say I don't use that much smoke, if ever.
I don't really either. I don't either. I've gotten to the point where a lot of times, where's my smoker at? Oh, it's 10 hives back.
Yeah, that happens.
I did use smoke last night though. I went to move a hive yesterday because I moved my bee yard about 400 yards back, and I wanted to get them closer to the stone wall. And there was one hive; it was just one of them busting at the seams, and I didn't split this one out, and it was packed. In fact, 2 weeks ago, I put another deep on it, so it has 3 deeps on it because I was just worried it was going to start swarming. Yeah. So I threw another deep on it. Well, guess what? I went in it last weekend, and it's packed. So me and the wife on last Saturday night, I said to the wife, we got to move it. So we went out, and my wife wasn't strong enough to help me lift it up to put it on the back on the golf cart with the back end of it. So I let it go. So I incorporated my brother in yesterday. I said, you got to go out with me. I said, you could put my jacket on, I'll put a veil on. Well, we went to put that up on the golf cart, no problem. When I went to pull out, little did I know that the golf cart was still in reverse. Well, those bees got a little excited. Oh. And you can imagine, you're 3 deeps and there's a honey super still on it, which they're just feeding on and stuff. And they were kind of roaring out everywhere they could roar out of, and pulled out to the new bee yard. Well, my brother was now throwing the jacket off and running away. Well, I went back out with the jacket on and started up a smoker. Well, the whole front of the hive was coated. And people talk about smoke. Well, I just kept puffing them, and they slowly, it took about 10, 15 minutes, right back in the hive. Put another ratchet strap on that thing and lifted off the back of that golf cart onto that hive stand and walked away. Now, I did have a couple hundred bees still on me, but I walked away with it. But my brother wasn't too happy with me because he's not a beekeeper by any ways, But it's been a long time since I've seen him move that fast, to be honest with you. So
that'll get a little bit of motivation there.
Oh yeah, but the smoke does work, but I don't use a lot, but it does work. I just kept puffing them. They worked right back into it. It was dark out, so they worked their way back in. So they could hear that roar, and they worked right back in. So
I've got a general question for you, and I'm so embarrassed to say this to you guys, but I've completely forgotten because it's so rare that I do this. But when you go to move a full hive, do you lock them in there for 24 hours and then move them, or is it a little bit longer than that?
no, I just over the time, I got to tell you, I don't know. Those guys can give you their opinion, but watching so much of the Bob Binney in that,
Mm-hmm.
just grab them and go.
Yeah, I think if you get them far enough,
Yeah,
that could
Well,
be.
if you
I only
move them
moved them
3
400
miles,
yards, and I haven't had a problem. They, the next day you could see some bees going back to the old position, but usually within 2 days, and there's still a hive or two in the old location area. So they intermingle, and I haven't any problem. I moved 16 hives total, so I haven't had any issue. So I move 4 or 5 at a time.
Yeah. Uh, got a spicy hive, definitely requeening. However, she's very prolific, and that hive makes honey. Do it now because I yeah, you can. I'm going to jump on this if it's okay, guys. In my opinion, if you think some other hives are going to supersede, I don't want her drones anywhere around. So um, it depends upon how much honey you want. If they're really strong right now, if you replace the queen, yeah, first of all, they might not take the queen, and that's something to think about if they're really a hot hive. So you can run into that problem there. You can do a newspaper merge, and we've never had a queen rejected that way. It depends. If you're okay, hot hives are just get rid of them. If you're going to lose some honey production, get rid of them. Get rid of those genetics in your yard. Yeah,
I
Bob's
mean,
going to leave.
if you do reintroduce, you're still going to take 6 weeks before they calm down to get rid of
Yeah,
all the
Charlie,
old
thank you.
bees.
That's the caveat.
Let me say something about this. I've been dealing with this for 2 years now, and I bought Buckfast in the first year that I started doing this because I was reading and doing, the same old thing. 5 different people are going to tell you 5 different things. And one of the things was the Buckfast is very winter hardy, northern climate, and mite resistant and that. So I brought a bunch of Buckfast and Italian in. And the one thing I noticed after the second year was the Buckfast were very good production, but they can be spicy.
I
And
never heard that. Where did you get the Buckfast from?
I got them at a Weaver apiaries out in Texas.
Oh, bee weavers, you got
Bee
that
Weaver.
darn. You got that.
Actually,
You got
actually,
this
actually, I
darn.
think I got mine out of our Weaver because there's two brothers. They separated. It's a family thing. I guess there was a little bit of I'm going to be mite resistant 100% and all natural and this and that. I forget exactly which one it was, but I got a handful of queens from there. I got real good production out of some of them. But the one thing I did find was they're either hot or cold, and if they're a little bit crowded, they were very very spicy. So I gotta say I've been very fortunate with the mites. I haven't had a lot of issue, but I've been doing my due diligence on treating stuff like that, and I haven't had much issue with mites. Let me knock on something. I don't know, but I did find that, and now I have a 6 and 8 year old that are my kids, and they work the bees with us sometimes. And there's been more than one time where I opened up a hive where literally my hands were being lifted up in the air, and it wasn't because I wanted to say hi to somebody because they were that hot. So over the last 2 years, we've been working that out of our apiary and getting back to some more Italian and that. And we're kind of like I pinched a handful of queens that I know that were, you know, the Buckfast queens. So, but I agree with but the other thing is if they're pumping out the honey, we're already in the May. Most of the flows, from what I understand, at least in the north, are done by July the 4th. At this point, like Charlie said, if you pinch that queen, if you don't put a breeder right in there that's going to sit right back in, and they got to accept her, you're going to lose the honey production. I mean, I know that for a fact. So you
Yeah,
might
that's the
Well,
balancing.
you got your production's going to die at what, in June? By June, late
Yeah.
June.
Then the other problem is, can you find, if you're not grafting, can you find a queen
That's
at the
another
end
thing.
of the season? It's hard to find queens right now
Yeah.
unless you ordered them a long time
But
ago.
it was from
I-
Hale Hives, if I remember correctly, and I know just from watching the chats and that he has more than one hive, so he has some good hives there. I mean, why not do a screen board split with one of your good hives and produce a new queen to put in there in a couple of weeks? You know, so I
Right.
mean, I know.
That's another possibility. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
But
I can't remember Hale Hives his name. I've seen it
Paul,
on the
Paul.
communications many times, but I know he doesn't have one or two hives. He's got to have a handful of hives. So he has a good producer, another one. Why not split it off now and with a screen board and produce his own queen? And in a few weeks, maybe he could do a newspaper reintroduction and still get some production out of that hive this year. So,
yeah,
and
I couldn't water my tomato plants and getting stuck. Okay, so I keep doing this, and I'll keep coating. Kim floating. Some gal asked him, I've got a hot hive here. What should I do with it? And his one question you asked her is that how many more times do you want to get stung?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's the thing. And you got Buckfast queens out of Texas?
yeah, they're labeled as Buckfast Queens out of our Weaver, I believe it was.
Yeah.
The only problem with that, to me, Charlie, let's see what you think of this, is
Well, Texas has been
Thank you.
known, from what I ever heard, that you're going to get into Africanized bees down there.
yeah, as opposed to getting Buckfast bees bred by, what the heck is that?
And when it comes to buckfast, from what I gather, the only way you can get true buckfast is to go through Canada somehow.
The University of Golf, Paul.
Something like that. I forget what it was. No, it's not. I mean, they have their own breeding program, and I listened to Paul down at Hive Life. But as far as buckfast from Buckfast Abbey, they don't really. I mean, there's nobody over there doing the bee thing over there at that Abbey. Like, I've listened to a couple of videos. It's like, yeah, they got some beehives over there, but they're just there for looks.
Yeah,
what Brother Adam did years ago is
down to
gone.
like 50 or something.
Huh?
They actually dropped down from hundreds of hives down to where they're only running 50 to 70 hives now, just for presentation.
Yeah, but I don't think that Brother Adam was over there, and it was a production thing, and he was strict, or his queen rearing was regular or monitored, regulated, very he knew exactly what was going on. They did their bees at an area where they were isolated and all this kind of stuff, and all that, he's dead and gone. All that stuff is gone from what
the island breeding. There's one island that they take them to in Canada that the University of Golf goes.
Yeah,
There's a group of people.
Paul Kelly up there. He had his presentation, and there's an island that is owned by a group of people that they basically turned them into beekeepers. You have to go there by boat, and they got them to start basically taking care of them, since they're not going to be there all the time, and that's how they got worked into the bee business. And they do have, and it is isolated and all this kind of stuff. But I mean, that's only one spot in the world, for around here, and can't do that in the United States. There's no place like that I know of.
Yeah. And I actually know of an island off the coast of Ireland where they're doing the same doggone thing, a really controlled beat. But I mean, that's the only way you can. Charlie, thank you. When you start, if you're gonna try and raise bees down in Texas, I'd be shocked if you weren't getting some hot drones in there someplace.
You're getting Africanized bee. There's Africanized traits. I'll say that.
Yeah.
I mean, they're
it's
watered
Either
down.
way,
But
all I can tell you is I got one or two of them. I'll tell you that.
yeah, most likely.
So
I mean, I wouldn't,
now
but
production, like I said,
but the
production is
bottom line
amazing.
of it is, from what I can see of it, is that if you can raise your own queens and all right, bring some genetics in from the outside that you like and raise, and then if that you like those bees or that queen, then pull some genetics out of that hive to graft from. Um, then I think it's like Cayman down there. He got to the point where he just kept bringing, finding his best hives, and over the years he's promoted his bees to be, in his eyes, good bees and all that stuff. I think that's where we're all at. Is if you want to be self-sustainable, the key to all this is queen rearing.
yep, yep.
And then your attitude changes when you can learn to if you got 20 queens and mating boxes behind you, and you got a one that's, like Ian Stupper says, well, that one ain't no good, kill her, and put another one in. Well, that's because you don't have to sit there and think, well, that's going to cost me $35 or $40 if maybe I ought to pet her along. Well, not when you own your own queens. It's like, you don't even think about it.
No.
It seems
I
to
got
me
one.
like
I got a hive right now that's one or two hives that I took a nuke. It was in a medium box, which would fit in my honey production hives. And I've been trying to build this queen up to get her to do honey production for me. And as soon as I get some decent queens mated or whatever, I'm going to replace her.
looks
Yeah.
like Bob got an order.
Yeah, but I messed around and shipped it UPS, so I have to go to UPS store now instead of the post to the box. So yeah, someone ordered some pins off of Amazon. From
So I
the
can't. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was just saying they just ordered them off of Amazon. Try those.
What did Hale put down there?
Try those.
Their hot queens have they been raising jalapenos and serranos?
That's not racist at all.
Bob, absolutely is, and that's why we did it. Dickweed.
There's nothing racist about that statement.
Man.
It's just, what can you say? You just do the best you can. Yeah, do the best you can when it comes to queens and your beekeeping, and figure out what kind of works for you. And if you can raise your own queens, you're way better off.
Well, that's why I'm trying that,
Yeah, it's queen rearing to me is probably the most rewarding and most fun aspect of beekeeping, to be quite honest with you. It's like kind of raising a garden, where you have these prize looking tomatoes and stuff like that. And here you go, hey Brad, and here you got these beautiful looking queens, and hopefully they're great producers as far as eggs and stuff. And what better satisfaction can you get out of that?
Yeah,
that's a great way of putting it. Thank you, Charlie. You talked me into it.
It is. I mean, it really is. I mean, it's like when you're grafting and you get a 50% or 90%. To me, look at it as a game between you and the bees, and the bees are going to tell you whether you win or not. You get 95%. Well, you won, as far as I'm concerned. That's you're doing good. Your skill level was good. Bees are telling you the skill levels are good.
For me, at this point with queen rearing, I enjoyed it, but the amount, and this is Brad will say something probably about this. It's the infrastructure. You have to have the infrastructure, because you're not going to just graft a ton of queens, because every queen you graft, you got to have a mating colony, which means you got to have drawn comb, and you got to have a box to put them in. So you got to have all that ready.
You're right. And that's kind of a gotcha, because because you can graft probably 300 cells an hour, 500 cells an hour. You could just, this is easy. And then you just do a whole bunch of that. And then you know, when those cells are all drawn, then you kind of think, oh dear, what do I, what do I do with all of this, right?
Uh,
So you know, it's catches up on you late in the later
Well,
steps of the process.
that's like Friday night. Mark shows us what did he get? 30. No, he got 40 some cells out
32
of
out of 45 on his third or fourth round on that.
or yeah, I mean, all right, you got 30, you got to have 32 mating boxes out there. You better have and you got to have minimum of 2 frames. So now we're
Yeah,
talking 64 frames of
drawn
brood
frames, drawn frames of bees and combs. So 64.
bees and food and brood and everything else
So
to
now
get
you're
that thing
taking
right.
6. If you put it in perspective, now you've got to have at least 6 10 deeps,
Hello.
10 frame deeps that you're willing to split up on the hopes that your queen cells will hatch and come back.
Thanks, guys, for reminding me.
I'm on a live chat.
Yeah, I've
and
already been thinking about that for the past 3 days.
Hello?
yeah, hence why a lot of people get into running minis. You know, when you start to get a bit of volume, a lot less resources goes into those. But there's a whole new world of pain in the backside for minis, so you have to deal with that. One of those parts, and you know, the people are really good at the grafting. Don't maybe contend with this as much as somebody like me. Um, but is the incubator and letting the virgins emerge in the incubator, and then uh, introducing them to the queenless mating nukes. Uh, it eliminates that margin of is that going to emerge, right? You never have a mating nuke where you have a cell that, oh well, that cell didn't emerge, and now what do you do with the mating nuke? You've already put resources into that mating nuke, and now you get a cell that didn't emerge. Well, let them emerge in the incubator, and absolutely every one of those mating nukes gets a virgin queen, so there's no waste there. Of course, now you've got the mating margin, right? So you've got 75% plus for mating success. So every piece of it has its margin of failure.
All right, question for you then. Once they emerge in the mating nuke, you could go ahead and mark them. How long can you leave them in, or in the incubator? How long can you leave them in the incubator before putting them in? I know it
I don't
takes
know.
2 to
I
3
just leave
days.
mine right on the keyboard.
Yeah, yeah, I
I
know
don't know
you
what
can.
the outside limit is.
So
I,
I mean,
I
I know
really
they
don't.
say
I
20
think
days to get mated. I believe is the timeline they say. And but I'm just wondering, is it okay for 2, 3, 4 days, or as long as you water them and
You better be feeding and
But
feeding
that's
and
right.
dipping that thing
Yeah.
of water on
yeah,
it.
yeah. I have a little dot of granulated honey in the bottom of my cage. I'm careful not to put it so that she's gonna fall in
Stuck
it
on
and
it.
get stuck or something. But mine don't stay in there that long, so I don't really know what the limit is. Probably the longest mine would stay in the incubator would be say 8 to 10 hours. Uh, because we'll check it every couple hours during the day, and then you know check it in the evening for the last time, and then check it in the morning. So it's
Yeah.
probably going to be about 10 hours if she emerges right after I check it in the evening. So I haven't had a lot of trouble that way, but yeah, I don't know what the outside limit. Corey Stevens talks about that, so look at some of his videos.
I looked at a
Uh,
little bit of his videos, but I didn't get in. I didn't catch that part of it. So
there's some that Nathan does with Corey. I think they talk about that quite a bit, or at least they touch on that about how long you can leave them in there.
Well, what I try to do is I try to plan like this is my first year mating, so this is the only experience I have with it. So if I had 10 queen cells in my incubator, I already had in my mind that I was going to have to set up 10. But like you said, if only 8 hatch out, great. I only set up 8 of those the day before. But then since I've already grafted the 10, I already have another graft working behind that, right? So a certain percentage of those are going to come back. And then I have, let's say out of the 8, let's say 50% come back. Now I got 4 surplus that have been in there ready for another queen. So it just kind of worked out like that for me.
Now, Brad, you mark your virgins after they hatch right out of the incubator, right?
That's right. That's one of my favorite parts about that. Being able to mark them super mark first, and then they're super easy to find in the mating nuke, because I'm currently not using minis, so it helps me find them in the deep frames. There's not that many frames, but still, it really does help.
So what do you do? A 3-frame mating nuke or something, or
Usually
or
4.
a 5-frame?
If I run out of my
4?
4s, I'll use either 4s or 5s. If last year I was running out, so I used some of those poly 6s. But it's warmer weather, so I'm not really that concerned with filling the box with a
Right.
cluster,
Well, I mean,
with
there
a
was
colony.
my friend Brian. He bought a bunch of what are the 3-frame license poly nukes, and of course he's been doing that here recently. Of course, it's been cold anyway because of that. That's why he bought them, because of that. And the only problem I see,
Those poly nukes I have, they have the thing you can put a divider in them, make them 3 on each side, and then an entrance on each end. So you could use them as 3s. I don't use them that way ever, but
well, he
I
had
have a pretty good supply of
individual
4 frame
poly nukes that
boxes.
were individual poly nukes that were just only 3 frames.
Yeah, it's
But
interesting. I've never seen those.
anyway, I mean, I'm going to try marking mine in the incubator too, and it's like Brad said,
so easy.
You put a queen cell in a mating box, then your curiosity gets up the best of you. Then you run out there, and you got to sit there, and you don't know, you see where the cell's been torn down, and then you're like, where's the virgin at? You're looking and looking and looking. Oh, there she is.
Yeah.
Then they say not to do that because it messes up the pheromone situation. And then after that, it's like, okay, leave them alone for about 2 weeks, and then she'll be laying by that time. So if you do the virgin queen and then you mark her, you've alleviated that wanting to go out there. All you got to do is let her walk in and come back in 2 weeks. She's in there, and then being marked, she's twice as easier to find, hopefully.
Oh yeah,
And
they don't fly. The virgins, they emerge, and then within a few hours, you grab them to mark. They don't fly; they just crawl around. Super easy to mark.
Yeah, super easy to mark.
As far as the nuke, you have to make sure it's queenless and check for rogue cells and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
I have done it where I've made the nuke queenless, maybe the day before, and then taken the virgin queen out there to put her in, and then realized, oh, I really need to check this for rogue cells. That's tough because I really like to shake the bees off when I check for rogue cells, because you know how well they hide the cells. But I also don't want to cause a whole bunch of calamity in that hive just before I dump a virgin on the top bar. So that's a little difficult, to find the cells without shaking the bees off. But yeah, that's what I generally. I'll just open the lid, just open my little cage, put her on the top bar. She'll just crawl down.
Right?
I've had really good success with that. Yeah, I've never used smoke.
You had a video I listened to, Brad. It was something like some of the wives' tales or whatever it was of beekeeping or something. And it was really good. I really enjoyed that, where it was like, hey, this is a virgin. What do you, you're trying to, what was it? Introduce her or something like that, because she's a virgin. And he says, well, wait a minute. When she comes out of a cell, there's no introduction.
It's just like, we have no queen, and then suddenly, oh, look, a queen. So what's the difference?
Yeah,
and that's
what's the difference?
Anthropomorphizing this whole situation. So maybe there is a difference. I've not seen a difference. And yeah, do a YouTube search sometimes, how to introduce a virgin queen to a queenless nuke, and the stuff that you'll get, it's like, make sure the planets are aligned, and It's like, dude.
Mhm. I didn't have any problems using your method this year.
Yeah.
Did you just drop them in, Bob?
I just did just what he said. Just take the top off the mating nuke, and it's only a 2-frame that I'm using, so I just put the roller cage right on top, pop the end off, and let her walk out
Yeah.
down.
And
the frame.
I had that video that he said, "Get your darn gloves off," you know, and
Yeah.
I'm taking that virgin, and I did a thing with the camera where I put her up on a piece of drawn comb, and then finally she just walked off the drawn comb, went down into the 2-frame mating box. I came back 2 weeks later, she had a patch of brood that big on that baby, you know, and I'm like, hey, I like this idea a lot.
And then
And
the
you know, when
good
I
thing
came
is
in
when
here,
she
you were
comes back,
talking.
and I'm sorry, I didn't mean to talk
No,
over
go
you,
ahead.
Brad.
No, I was just going to say, when I came in here, you guys were talking about the great things about raising your own queens, and all of that stuff is, you know, Charlie, you were talking about, oh, you got a bad queen, just pinch the queen and just, you know, you get queens. I got lots of queens over on the side here. All of that stuff is true, but to me, the greatest feeling when I raise queens is when I pull that frame and I see those eggs, and I see that milk brood in there, and I think, there you go. That's where it's at for me. You know, it worked.
Mm-hmm.
No, I don't spray anything, Michael. No, we don't spray anything on them. Just let them walk in. They don't have a strong pheromone when they first come out.
Now that's like I said in my video. They cut the worker bees when you put her in a mating nuke like that, because she doesn't have the pheromone smell strong. They kind of annoy her. They don't care. They know she's a virgin, or she knows she's a queen, but they know she's a virgin, you know, and they just kind of like, what, you know, I'm not going to pay attention to you. And
yeah, they're not too interested. They don't have
they're
much
not
pheromone, I
interested
don't
in
think.
her, and she'll walk around. And if you ever watch a brand new young virgin, she's running across that darn comb like a
She's
mile a minute.
bulldozing.
Oh, she
Yeah,
just all over the damn place,
absolutely.
and then she's about the size. Most of the time, if you get them early enough, she's about the size of a worker bee, and I'll pick I can pick her out because she'll have the where you mark her with the ink
The big
pen.
thorax.
Yeah,
And
it was once I kept thinking about this a couple years ago. I said, why am I picking up on her? And I finally realized that on a worker bee, the thorax is hairy like the rest of the body is. Even there's, you know, if you look at a microscope picture, there's hair grows
right.
out of a bee's eye. Whereas a virgin queen or any queen, the thorax where you mark her it's a black, but it's shiny looking. And if you train yourself, you'll pick that up every time, and then you'll
me,
see
her abdomen is pointier.
It's pointier.
Because it's a little wider at the front, it seems, like, because the thorax is wider. And the other thing I want to point out too is when you see that bee and you think, is that the queen? Look at her hind legs. Look at her hind legs. Her hind legs stick out like that, and they're long and spindly. They have no corbicula. They have no pollen baskets. That flat part on the worker's hind legs.
I have to notice. I have to look at that.
So that's
another thing.
Like,
is
if
that
you see a small virgin and she looks like a worker, and you say, "Why is that a worker?" Look at those hind legs, because they're very different than a worker.
And another thing is look at the relationship between the abdomen and the wing length. Her
wings,
butt
yes.
is always halfway past the end of the wings, and all worker bees are even with the rear
they're
end
not
of
much
that
longer
bee.
than their wings.
Much longer than that, and all that. So that's some of the things, and all. But I like to say, out of all the beekeeping things that we do, queen rearing is the most fun and the most rewarding, and all that kind of stuff.
Agree.
Makes you feel like you've done something.
And I get to do it for maybe 6 to 8 weeks a year. I do the whole year so that I can do queens 6 to 8 weeks.
Yeah. Yeah, ours is about
what a
about
crazy
3
person
months.
looks like right here.
But
Yeah, it was to me. It's so. I was watching your videos here a couple of weeks ago, and I'm like, my gosh, you got to put your bees in a box in a barn to keep them alive, and then you're out there in a foot of snow with a snowblower blowing snow in order to be able to have a place to put them. And like all that. I mean, we sit here and complain about how much work it is, and you're doing a third more work than what we ever thought
It's
about.
January and Charlie's going, well, it was 40 degrees yesterday and I don't know what I'm going to do.
Charlie, what about Bob? I remember back in February, Bob going, it's 72 degrees today.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, there's been more
But
than
you
one
know
day
what? I
up
was
to
watching Brad's video,
65.
and he's out there, I think, standing at one of his work garage or something like that. And he's looking across his field and the other buildings, and the wind's blowing, and it's a foot and a half of snow. And he said, well, I'm going to bring my bees out next week. And I'm like,
weather's getting better.
I wouldn't even I wouldn't even be even thinking about that if it was looking like out my window.
Yeah.
And last week, Mike was walking in the neighbor's yard to pick up garbage. Here it was snow.
Wow, I was like, my God, you're putting your bees out in the middle of the winter time, and I'm like, Jesus whiz. And then you watch Ian up there, and he's out there with one of them heavy duty wagons, the little pull behind children's style wagons, but they're made for like nurseries. And the wheels won't turn because of I'm watching the wheels. I said, that one wheel won't even turn because of the snow on the ground. And he's pulling 80 pounds of pollen through the darn bee yard, putting pollen on, and it's a foot of snow in the bee yard because it just snowed the night before. And I'm like, my God.
Year,
I mean,
I thought it was a good idea for me to put my syrup pails and my syrup jars in my wagon, a lot like that, and drag it out the apiary and feed the bees. Well, I got it out there, and the wheels wouldn't turn because of the mud, and I was dragging this thing through the mud trying to feed my bees.
It's probably going sideways and
But I'm like, I mean, I'm looking at what you guys have to go through before decent weather ever hits.
And that's why they get rewarded in twice the honey we get.
That's why we work twice as hard. Or twice as much stress, maybe.
I guess, but I mean, you guys got to go through a lot of crap in order to keep your bees alive and get them ready for the darn, small micro burst of honey season.
And Charlie, that's why I study you guys, because I don't want to say, oh man, if I had real life comedy, if I had Charlie's weather, that'd be easy. I'd keep all my bees alive. I'd make 20 splits a year. I can't say that because you guys have different challenges and you have different situations that aren't going to work here, and what works here isn't going to work for you necessarily. So,
right.
It's not all.
Well, it's just like I was, I was discussing with the Chingle Brood Chamber, and then, either equalizing throughout the honey season where I really didn't want to tear my hives down. In your situation, the way your weather is, the time of the year it is, that works for you. Down here, April, May, and June is our honey season. April, May, and June is our swarm season. And I had 2 big old swarms out there yesterday that I tried to capture. And so it's like, okay, I got to go back to what it works. So now I'm going back to equalization. And I think I got a pretty good setup now, knowing how to work with my honey hives.
We get swarming in July, but our swarm season starts, well before main honey flow. It'll start, late May, early June. Swarms, and then
by that time here we're done.
Honey flow doesn't start until nearly July. Like around the solstice somewhere.
Come 1st July, we're honey season's over with. Come end of June, swarm season is pretty much over with. And all that stuff.
And the seasons here, they're severe, but they're very distinct. And even though the exact timing of things isn't necessarily all that predictable, it is a lot more predictable. We've had a fairly cool April, but
Mhm.
that's about as bad as it gets. We can predict things a lot better, I think, than sometimes you guys can, as far as what's going to happen in the next couple of months. It's got to warm up, and it is. Tuesday, it's starting
Mhm.
to, like, it's 6 C here right now. It's still pretty cold. Tomorrow is not going to be much warmer, but Tuesday they say it's going right up. So we're going to be getting temperatures into the mid high 60s and maybe 70 F, to put in perspective this week.
Yeah,
So we're
yeah.
happy with that.
Yeah, what is it? 10 C is 50 degrees F, right?
About 50, yeah.
Yeah, and I
And
looked it
you
up.
think about room temperature, like what do you call room temperature, Charlie?
65, 70 degrees.
65, yeah. So I was raised, room temperature was 68. Room temperature in C is 20. So that kind of hot summer days, 100 F, and that's about 40 C.
Mm.
We don't
Yeah,
see 40 C very often.
68 is about right.
Yeah.
That was kind of the days back of, conserving energy and, the oil prices and everything else. But yeah. So, like I say, it's, I don't know, it was like the way, like I was complaining about the weather on the weekend, and even our local weather guy said the other ladies on the weather channel were complaining, they were the newscasters. And he said, yeah. And he went back. He said every weekend in March and April, it rained one of those days in there. And, of course, they're looking at the fact they want perfectly blue skies and everything like that. I don't care about that, just as long as it's warmish and it's not raining. And,
I was joking with my wife today that, the 9 to 5ers, they want the weekend always to be nice. And this week's forecast is going to be beautiful weather all week, and Saturday and Sunday it's going to rain.
mhm,
So, I'm okay with that because I get to,
rest.
my job is outdoors if I'm working the bees.
Right.
And with my job, it doesn't matter what day of the week it is. The only thing is the weekend I can't do business with certain people because they ain't at work.
And then I got it from the video that we went out and we broke down and got ourselves a new ride. Brad?
You got yourselves a new ride?
No, no, you
Oh,
did.
I did.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you went out and got
yeah.
yourself a new pickup
I
truck.
was, I was, I was thinking. I thought you said we broke down and got a new ride, and I thought, oh, I did too.
Yeah,
What'd
you
you buy?
did.
Yeah, I'm gonna kind of explain that a little bit on my next one, but yeah, my little half ton is just not cutting it. It's just too old. It's very, very rusty and starting to be more trouble than. I mean, financially, you can still fix things, but it's taking way too much of my time, and
The
especially
reliability
when that
factor is
time,
gone, right?
yeah, especially when that time includes getting stranded away from home in the cold, and you've got deliveries to make or appointments to keep, and your truck broke down again or whatever, right?
Yeah, that time
So
issue can be a real bouncer.
yeah, so it really came down to that. It came down to turnkey instead of just thinking about, well, what's payments against repairs? Because payments against repairs, well, you could do a lot of repairs for the kind of payments you make, but you can't pay for that time. I went through a lot of days this winter where I should have been working in the shop making money, and I couldn't because I was fixing trucks.
Yep.
My brother just bought one. He bought a Chevrolet 3500 HD with the Duramax diesel
Yeah,
in it.
yeah.
$85,000. Yeah, that's
Well, whatever you want to get, right?
even if I wanted to get that, I couldn't. The bank would be like, "Are you kidding me? You only make this much money. You know, it's not going to happen." So
Oh, we got a 2016 half ton. So, it's not new, it's not old. It's kind of in the middle there, and
Yeah, I got a
it's really
2016
nice. It's in very good shape, so I hope it's going to serve
Dodge
us
again.
well. No, it's a Ram.
Oh, same thing. Same company,
Well,
right?
I don't know.
Dodge Ram.
Well, I guess the parent company is, but it's not a Plymouth either.
That's true.
Are you sure it's not an Edsel?
An Edsel.
It's not an Edsel.
I've actually been
That's a
toying
very
around with the
common
idea.
thing. Sorry, Bob, I pick on people about that. Dodge
Oh.
hasn't made trucks in 13 years, 14 years.
I've got I've just got an F-150. And it's 2016.
Well, you can haul anything then with an F-150, so I'm told.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I mean, it's 325 horsepower V6, right? It's the small one. But
yeah,
believe it or not, from what I gather, there's what, the 2.7, and then there's a 3 point something liter V6, 3.3 or something like that. I don't know. But it's supposedly not as good as the 2.7. So I don't know. I don't have anything to compare it to, but I like my truck.
This one has the 5.7 liter V8. I had one of those a couple of years ago, and it seemed like a really good truck. More power than I'll ever want, for sure.
Right.
I think it just comes down to if you get lucky, you get a good one, you get a good one. With almost all these manufacturers.
Yeah, there's a lot of that.
Yeah,
there's a lot of that.
I haven't even broke 77,000 on the odometer yet on mine, so it's a good thing.
Well, you see that old 1-ton that I drive? That's 17 years old now, I think I said. It has over 250,000 miles. It's a U.S. truck, so it's in miles.
Brad,
still going along. It's good.
Do you have salt up there?
Oh, yeah.
Road salt?
Oh, yeah, you should see my half-ton. That's testament.
Okay.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah, had to ask. I've been looking
at
it.
Bad as some places because it's too cold here to make it very effective
to put
a lot
down.
of the time.
Yeah. I try to explain to people what black ice is and watch their eyes glaze over. But
you only have to drive on it once, and then you'll know.
Yeah, it's like woo,
because that ruins your day.
Yeah, and the good thing there, no southern wind chills in or Colorado. Lots of broken windows. Okay, Brian. I've actually been. I was looking at a short bed pickup truck. I wanted a 4-door, and been spending a lot of time looking at that. And honestly, I don't know, guys. Please don't slap me down too hard for this, but I'm looking at getting a Honda Pilot and then just pulling a trailer.
See, that's a viable solution for what I'm doing, but it really depends on what you're doing. And with my half-ton, the thing about the little green one that I have, it's a standard cab short bed. It's a 6.5-foot bed and a standard cab. So it's a short wheelbase truck. And when I go into the city to do my deliveries, boy, that thing is nice to just zip around the city and
absolutely
drive, get along well in winter, all that kind of stuff. But the new one is an even shorter bed, but it's the crew cab. It's got a very big cab, so I can put a lot of cargo in the back seat area, and then just not quite so much in the bed. But it's, again, it's a longer truck than the little half-ton that I had. And then my 1-ton, it's like a school bus. It's an 8-foot bed and a quad cab truck, so it's 22 feet long or something. It's huge. But I do deliveries in that too. It just takes me a lot longer, and sometimes I have to walk farther from where I park.
Hey guys, I gotta catch you later. I'm out.
All right,
yeah,
Carl.
I'm going to run out here too, Carl. But before you go, Carl, Those are some nice cabinets you have behind you there. Like that.
Yeah, a little bit of oak. I mean,
Yeah.
that's not even the nice part. It's when you go this way, when you get into the
There you
stove,
go.
the
Nice
stove
looking.
Oh,
and
very nice cooking rig there, young man.
yeah, the stove and the dishwasher. I got a commercial dishwasher, commercial stove, and everything else.
I love it.
I'm into restaurant supply, so
Oh,
uh,
for crying out loud.
Nice.
yeah. So I
Very
deal with
nice.
chefs every day, so I get some ins and outs. So I kind of fiddle around a little bit. So you know, so
Wow.
got to have the goodies if you're gonna play the game. You know. So
Now we know where we can buy wholesale.
yeah, if you want to know something about NSF and commercial restaurants and stuff like that, and sanitation, that's what I'm into. So
I'll definitely keep that in mind. I really will.
it's the play. I have it set up pretty nice here. My wife sort of likes me. So
Yeah.
when you run a load of dishes through in 3 minutes,
Hey, Bob,
it's
you
not a
got
bad thing.
spammer there?
I'm
Do
sorry.
what?
Got a
I
spammer there?
thought I hit that.
Brian got him, I think.
Yeah.
So, but I'll catch
Yeah.
you guys during the week. Hopefully, you're on a little too late for me when I'm getting up at 4 and 5 in the morning every day.
Oh, yeah.
So, but I hope I could talk to you in the next week or so.
All
Sounds
right.
good.
Sounds wonderful.
Right
All
on.
right.
Have a grand night.
All right. Thanks, guys. Catch you
Yeah.
later.
See ya.
Take care.
Thanks, Chris. Bugman just ordered some lure off Amazon. So shipping that out right here.
Yeah, I don't know. Electric went out on me here for a little bit.
The
So
only thing we ever get is internet going down. Even with the overhead lines we've got.
so what time are you guys seeing first light nowadays?
About 6.
6 a.m.
Really?
That's what we're seeing.
I think I'm getting it more like about 5:30.
I'm never up at 5:30, so it could be 5:30. That's the
There
first
you
time
go,
I
Bobby.
6 a.m.
Well, it might be 5. I don't know. I don't really like 6.
Official
I'll say
sunrise
really.
here is 6 o'clock these days.
I was thinking first light. That's what made
Yeah.
me think of it. Yeah.
Well, around here, if it's 6 o'clock, first light will be about 4:30.
Yeah. That's the direction I was going with you there, Brad. But
Excellent.
And then,
no.
well, you guys get about what? How many hours of daylight are you guys getting over there now, Brad?
Well, it's not super long yet, but give me another month, 6 weeks, and it'll be 20 hours of daylight, probably almost.
Could just about finish up our yard work, drive up there to them, and they'd still be sunlight to help Brad finishing up his daily chores.
Well, it's getting dark enough that you don't want to be working outside about 10:30, 10 o'clock, 10:30, and
At
then
night.
and then if you want to move bees, in the middle to late June, if you want to move bees, you can get at it about 3:30, 4 o'clock if you want to get up that early.
So it's saying official
definitely
sunrise tomorrow here is 6:35 a.m. and sunset is 8:08 p.m. So that's what 12 and a half or 13 and a half hours. What do we got now?
It's about 6 o'clock for me here. From what where it's starting to get, pretty late and all that stuff.
Yeah, I might even be closer to 5:15 right now. The reason I ask is that I'm just thinking about the earlier bee flights, and so on. The kind of doing that thing. My Siamese here has been waking me up now at about 5. So it's just really interesting. Of course, the bees aren't flying, until dawn as a rule of thumb, unless you got some insanely strong hive. But it's kind of fun to go out on the back deck, watch the sunrise and look at the entrance of the hives, and that's where that was coming from. So,
Yeah, it is. It is nice, and when I move bees late. It's June, at some point in June, and I'll get up early, but I've got hours and hours of daylight before the bees wake up, and so that's really nice.
Hmm.
I did one day. I had 2 yards to move, and I got up at I get up about 4 maybe. I'm out there 4:35, and so I loaded a load of bees and moved them out to the out yard and unloaded them and came back here, and it was the strangest thing because I think it was an overcast day, but it was 17, and I remember 17C, which would be about 65F or so, I guess. And it was, nearly noon or 10 or 11 o'clock anyway, no flight. So I loaded up my second load of bees and took them to my second out yard, and I moved all my bees in one day. It's never happened before because I like to get them when they're not flying. That's all.
Yeah.
It was the strangest thing. I don't know why they weren't flying. It wasn't cold.
Yeah,
Did it start raining later on, or
No,
I'm just
no,
wondering
it
if
was
the
it was quite a lovely day. It was not super windy, uh, anything like that.
yeah, interesting.
Yeah, it was very strange.
Charlie,
hmm.
I don't know. You started to say something there.
Oh, Jason Chandler said that bring that up, Bob. Ask Brad which way which way I should run the frames in my 4 frame mini mating nukes. But they're usually sideways with the entrance.
I didn't know you could change the
Well,
direction of them.
well, when I made my quads, so I'll take a 10 frame medium box and I'll divide it both ways, so then I have 4 minis. Then
Right.
half of those are one way and half of them in the other because the entrances are on all 4 sides. Um, I don't think it matters. You do whatever you want. Like
Hmm.
that's
And then Mark Miller wants to know how needs to know what's the best time line to pull mated queens. How long is the best to let her lay before pulling? I don't know. I mean,
that's a good question.
as long as
As long
she,
as
I mean, the
possible.
main time. I mean, if you're particular about it, from what I kind of gather from listening to people, is you're looking at the frame of the laying pattern to kind of judge to whether she's, is she laying up carpet brood, you definitely got a great queen, or
I
she's
would agree.
shotgun pattern or whatever. And I think
I would say exactly the same thing. That's
that's what you're looking for. Is like, okay, maybe she'll do it in 2 weeks. The next one might have to take a month. I don't know. It's just it's kind of what you're looking for, I think. Oh, there's your buddy.
I
There's
think I'd
Aiden.
go a couple of days anyway, a few days. Hey, Ian, when I get back to the yard, Carrie had all the work finished. Perfect timing.
Love it when a
I was
plan comes
coming down the
together.
highway toward Ian's place, and I'm driving down the highway, and I'm thinking, there's a truck coming, and I'm thinking, well, the truck is going to stop at the highway, so we don't have a crash. And I looked at the truck, and I thought, there's a couple of IBCs on the back of that truck. And I looked at that truck again, and why that truck looks familiar. There's a beekeeper with his arm hanging out the window.
Oh, goodness me.
So that was perfect timing.
Hmm. Man
Yeah,
alive.
I watch his videos, and I guess it to me it looks like an ocean. I guess he's looking across the prairie, I think, and it's that snow, and it looks like it's an ocean of water out through there, and it's like, man, I mean, as far as you can see, it's flat, and it's snow or water laying there or something, and it's like, you know,
Yeah, it can be, and there's a lot more open land in his area than mine. There's a lot more brush and pockets of trees and whatnot here. So his drifting is unbelievable.
Yeah,
10
those
foot drifts, you know.
ancient lake bed prairies, they
Yep.
with the gradual hills and so on, send that wind up and down, gets a little crazy.
And then what gets me is like you're saying about me when I'm complaining about being 40 degrees. Um, Ian and his wife are making a video. We're out for a morning walk, and
Yeah.
Oh, that's right.
it's blowing 40 miles an hour. It seems to me, and I'm like, you're walking in around here. We would call that a blizzard, and
It was, yeah.
snow
Yeah.
blindness and everything else. And they're after, oh, we're having
And
no problem.
out
And I'm
there,
like,
it's a little breezy this morning.
yeah, and I'm like, how do
You
you?
know.
And then it's got to be horrendously cold, and it's like, how do you stand that?
Well, the other funny thing about being out there like that is that you always see Ian with his sunglasses out there. Well, there's a reason for it.
Well, yeah,
You get out in that fresh snow like that, you do start developing snow blindness pretty quick.
Absolutely.
And it's hard to explain to people
Absolutely.
that haven't been in that.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I remember it was actually last year when I made a video. I walked out to my apiary after we'd gotten, one of those big storms that we got. And I was talking about that because I couldn't see anything between here and the apiary as far as the lay of the ground. And I'd be walking along and I'd be in 2 inches of snow, and in 4 steps, it would be up to my knees, and I couldn't see a thing. And it was so easy to fall down because you just be
Yep.
walk, 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 and then you can't walk anymore because you're in 3 feet of snow. And so you still got momentum and you can just fall down. So it's absolutely, and not only that, I burned my nose on the 7th of April when I was moving my bees out because there was all that snow still, remember? And
Yeah.
the next day I'm thinking, why is my nose so burned? It was all peeling, and I had a terrible sunburn on my nose because I wasn't
No.
wearing any.
now he was saying, Ian said there's something where the snow blindness is for the bees as well. I guess isn't that
It
where
must.
they fly into the snow because they think it's the sun reflection or something?
You can't see it. You don't know where it is. There's no
Mm.
there's no perception of how far you are from it. It's because there's nothing there.
Mm.
Mm.
You know.
Well, it does get really interesting, but at least
Well,
the grand thing is with all the snow that we had, the depth of the snow. We literally didn't have any ground frost this year. Went out to
wow.
dig we went to dig a grave in oh man, was it beginning of January, something like that? And I shove a bar down the ground, and there was ground frost. It was maybe an inch, and that was it. So all the snow that we had melted right down and went into our groundwater. So that was a blessing, So
Good. So most of that snow is all gone now.
say again. Oh yeah. Our lake was down 2 feet, and it's back up. We've had 2 years of drought, and just that gradual melt. And Ian didn't have that. Is here there too. He had all that snow, and his ground frost must have been down way low, because otherwise he'd be sinking in the mud. And that's a grand thing, replenish the soil moisture. So
Yeah, it depends. It'll be different in different areas. I know it's weird. Be the middle of winter, I'll be maybe using my snowblower somewhere I haven't cleared snow, and it'll be January, and I'll get down to the bottom of the snow and I'll be picking up mud.
yeah,
I think it's been 30 below for a week here. How come it's, and that speaks to back to the bees, speaks to my theory about the bees. If your bees are sitting on the ground and like maybe on a pallet or something, and a basic winter wrap, and they're covered in snow, that's the perfect situation because they're insulated. They've got that little microclimate in there, and it's the ground that's moderating the temperature of the little igloo that they're sitting in.
Right. Yeah, I mean it's killing. It takes that wind away and all that stuff. That's the wind's worse than the cold, I think.
Yeah,
Or it
no wind chill.
The wind chill is that'll do worse than anything else.
exactly, Ian. Yeah.
Yeah.
I curse it, but
Yeah,
it's all I know.
I hate
That's
snow. But
He was talking about his brothers planting wheat and stuff.
oh, that's right.
And I'm like, you know, I'm I'm looking at what they got up there weather wise now, and I'm like, okay, when are they? If they get it in the ground, are they going to have? You know, is it going to be ready to harvest before this darn snow flies again? You know, or gets cold?
well,
You end up with a
there's
really
no time.
interesting balancing act there too, because I don't know how this works out with wheat, but I asked my grandpa once, 85-year-old Norwegian farmer, and I said, when did you plant your corn? He says he thought about it. He says, well, May 25th. And I asked him, well, why is that? He says, because in all my years, I'd never seen a hard frost after May 25th. So, when are they going to get it in? I don't know. It's who knows what the growing season is going to be like this year. Supposedly in central where I am, we're supposed to have a warmer and wetter summer, and that's because of El Nino or La Nina, Old Farmers or Regular Farmers Almanac. And I'll tell you what, we can really use it. But that's going to extend the growing season. Now, is that going to affect Ian, who's directly north by northwest of me? I don't know. I've never grown wheat. I should just shut the hell up.
Well, obviously, it must be red wheat because in here in Maryland, we plant winter wheat where we plant
winter wheat
in the fall, and it comes up like it looks like a grass about. You want it about 6 inches or so tall, maybe 8 about 6, I would say. And then it goes through the winter, and we want snow on it because it actually does better.
Yep.
But out west they have this, they call it red wheat, which
red spring wheat.
Spring wheat, red spring wheat.
Yep.
There you go. And I talked to one fella that was from out that way when he grew up years ago, and he said it was developed because of some mold or some kind of a.
Oh yeah, rust. Yeah, the rust. If I remember right.
I forget it was something that they developed it, why they use that out there, and it's a different thing.
So where I grew up, we were in my day we were grain farmers, and that was in the 70s, and the season was even shorter. My dad had and same thing you were saying, Mike. There would be years when guys would have an early spring and they'd be out there early April, mid-April, putting the seed in the ground, and it would come up 2 inches and then get a hard frost, and then they get the seed drill out again and do it all over again. My dad had a rule that it was the 10th of May. His day was the 10th of May.
That's what it
was. He would spend
was.
his spring working on equipment, getting everything ready, and the 10th of May he started putting seeds in the ground. So, you can see that that's even shorter. We were 300 miles northwest of where I am now, and I remember we'd be combining in October, and I remember one year my dad combined some of his canola in the spring because there was too much snow on it in October.
All right, let me ask you this. Now, when you combine and back in the 70s like that, did you have a regular table head on that thing cutting that wheat, or did you cut it and put it in a rut?
Right, we would swath it in windrows, and then it would dry
down. Why do you do that? Why do you do that?
Because the season wasn't long enough for it to ripen on the head on the stalk.
Oh, kidding? Okay.
Because I mean, around here we're still. Ripen. I mean, we'll have a grain table head, and of course the one guy that's working the fields behind me there, he's got I think 30-foot heads now, great big monster, John Deere's and stuff, and he's still, they do it like that. Of course, it's ripe July. By 4th of July, everybody's cutting wheat and that kind of stuff.
Well, I did a lot of the swathing late in the 70s when I was old enough, and my big swather I was using was 17 feet. It would take me days to swath 100 acres.
Well, 17 feet is big for us. I mean, I got a disc bine. It's 10. It'll do a 10-foot, and then which is big enough for us, and then it's like the guy that rents the back end of our place. He, what was it? 3/4 or 4? He had it. He had a corn head made up himself out in the Midwest. I think it does 16 rows at a swath. And it was,
That's quite a
it's
bit,
not a, a brand, it was custom made for him. And the only problem I see with it is he's got a grain wagon like Ian's got. I think it's 1,250 bushel or something like that. He get out the other end, he's full, or he couldn't make a complete round because he's got to dump it because he's pulling so darn much corn in at the one time.
Yeah,
and all
corn
that.
Is amazing.
And then he's got the other ones, or I think they're 12 row, and but he's running.
We farmed 1,200 acres, and we'd crop 3/4 of that. My dad was a third-year fallow guy, so we'd crop 3/4 of that or so.
Now, the reason behind that is to get the water into the ground for the next year. Is that why they
let the land rest? And
well, I mean, they talk about that in the Midwest of the United States where they have fallow ground and all that, but that's a Midwest technique where we don't do that here on the East Coast.
Well, this was before the days that zero till was a big deal. So the advantages why we would do it is it allowed the land to rest, to get some nutrients kind of built back. Allowed us to till in the crop residue from the year before and get that down into the soil instead of just on top. If it's on top, it turns to flour and it blows away. And also we could keep the weeds down. So I would cultivate it or rod weed it or something, maybe 2 or 3 times during the summer, and I could keep the weeds down. So then that took the pressure off our chemical usage when we were cropping.
Now, when you guys are running
by today's standards, we didn't use any chemicals hardly at all by today's standards.
Right. When you guys are running fallow like that, how often would you put in cover crops like buckwheat?
Never.
Okay.
Never. My dad.
I always thought that. I know out Midwest out there, they burn a lot of that. Like if they're out there with wheat, and they were always about. I was out there in the 70s and 80s, and they would burn all that stuff off because they didn't want any of that straw and stuff to suck the moisture up. They, of course, they're not getting much moisture out there to begin with.
My dad was a plow guy. I did a lot of plowing when I was growing up. His method was to take the plant matter, turn it under, let it rot in there, and turn to soil. I think he was a pretty good farmer, and it really worked for us in our conditions.
I like to say it depends where you live and your weather conditions, and that's you have to kind of work it, to what works for your environment. I don't know. It's like my son.
He'd have a good rotation. He'd grow barley, wheat, and canola, so he'd rotate that all the time. I think it was
we always grew
fourth year.
Yeah,
we always wheat, barley, canola 3 years in a row, and then after the canola, it was fallow.
Yeah. So in the 30s and 40s, and I think even in the 20s, a lot of the guys here in Minnesota and Wisconsin, quite a few of them were putting buckwheat down. Instead of just letting it go to fallow, nitrogen fixing, weed control, and the whole 9 yards. But honestly, that's where I developed my taste for buckwheat honey. The guys that was still doing that, and damn, I miss that. Sorry.
I don't know. That darn stuff tastes like mud to me.
Buckwheat honey, that's a love or hate. I've cleaned out too many pig barns to like the taste of buckwheat honey, because that's what it tastes like to me. It tastes like what a pig barn smells like.
Oh my gosh, I've never heard that comparison before, Brad.
I haven't never heard that one either.
But we've got somebody down in southeast Minnesota that's bottling honey, and they say it's buckwheat honey. And I tasted it at a local farmer's market. It wasn't even honey. you know. And honestly, that did taste like pig poop, but yeah. Well, Ian, in all fairness, though, your canola oil is so, or honey is so light that uh, it's just. I know that my relatives in Saskatchewan will look at it and say, "I don't know, is this honey?"
The biggest
But they're
problem with that
they're
canola
healthy people.
is it'll crystallize when you're looking at it. It's what they tell me.
Yep.
And
Yeah,
that's why Ian goes out there and tests that stuff. And if it's close without, not being capped, he'll pull it because
grab it.
he's going to grab it because it's going to crystallize. Like he had that one problem where that auger and that extractor got hung up because the honey crystallized in there. People don't realize.
that's right. I don't know how the heck he manages that, though. I can't imagine trying to balance that. Well, it's like Richard Knoll. What's the honey he has out there in Brittany, France? Is it
rapeseed?
He's got canola.
No, it's something like lavender honey or something, and it basically crystallizes as soon as they get in the cell.
Wow.
I can't remember what it is now.
Well, he was talking about it on one of his videos today that the canola was. They had so much rain or something over there. The blossom was getting a pale yellow instead of a bright yellow. But no, our big thing around here was horse people, and we raise hay, and we're grass farmers, I guess you'd call us. And so we grass and then rotate it with wheat and that kind of stuff. So my son, he's taking over.
I don't want buckwheat near my honey, and I don't want canola near my honey, because the two constituents of my honey are it's light and it stays liquid a long time. So buckwheat would ruin it, and canola would ruin it too.
Yeah.
Heather honey. Okay.
What is it?
Heather. That's what Richard has out there.
It's really thick. That's what they say.
I don't know what that is. It's like I had some of James's honey here he gave me, and it was supposed to be clover. I don't know what kind of clover it is, but I've got, I don't know, a half a dozen to a dozen different people's honeys across the United States and Canada. And they all have a different unique taste about them. And some of them are like that.
James's clover honey, very, very light. Very light
it's
color.
Kind of pea yellow looking, it's real yellow. Thin.
Well, see, a lot of times we'll call clover honey sweet clover. We'll call clover.
Yeah. That's that weed looking. It's not white clover.
It's tall.
It's tall with a yellow blossom on top of it. Yeah.
And that's it's not clover. And that's why if you say, well, this is clover honey, and it's actually sweet clover, it's going to be very different than what you might have tasted as clover honey. And clover is a family of plants too. It's not one. Sweet.
Well,
clover
you got like
Chrisman
clover. Is that Chrisman has got that little red long stem, and Mark Miller, he's got that planted in plots where his hives are at, and they use that around. Well, they used to use it as a cover crop, but I asked the one farmer that was doing corn behind me there. I said, he was gonna put cover crop. I said, put crimson in there. I heard that you were doing that, and I don't know whether the bees would actually get a benefit out of it or not. But
doesn't that have a tall red flower?
Yeah. See, now their proboscis can actually go in there and get that nectar out of that type of clover.
Can they? I thought it was too deep, but
no, that's the ball clover. It's got they call it red clover here, but actually it's got a pink round. Okay. It's like a round white ball, the white clover round ball. This is the pink one, and it's too deep for they can't get their tongues down in there to get any nectar out of it.
Okay.
And all that stuff. But anyway,
I just realized I was sitting here quiet. I just realized I haven't received my veterans disability in 4 months. They haven't paid me. So now I got to call the VA. They just stopped at the beginning of the year, just stopped coming in my account all of a sudden. So,
but my son, he's taking a farm over and he's doing hay, and he took I sent him to college, and he took the ag things and stuff, but he does a lot more. He does raise a fine bunch of hay. He's putting, he gets the ground analyzed, and he puts high magnesium lime on there instead of calcium lime, which our ground needs, and which does a better job of growing grass. And then he goes out there and he sprays it with a pre-emergent where it kills any of the weeds, and it's a good looking fields. So
Yeah, Bob's a veteran there. Bob, you were in the Navy, weren't you?
Navy, Naval Reserve, and the Army National Guard.
Oh, okay. I forgot about the guard thing.
Yeah.
So, Bob, we're all talking about plants here. What have you got that's going to be bringing nectar in right about now?
Well, I've got the what do you call it? Ligristum? I can't even say it, but it's a
Go ahead.
Prism clover.
Japanese privet is coming in right now.
Oh, okay.
And so that's what they started on. And then after that, here we'll get the mimosa that'll come in. So
yeah, now see a formosa tree. That's you might want that's more of an ornamental tree. Somebody might have planted. We had one in here in our yard that it broke up and died, but it's
mine
not
are about 40 foot tall. That's how big the mimosa trees are around here. It's like
but there's a lot. There seems to be a tremendous amount of them in your area. Where here they're not around. Our big thing is locust trees and poplar trees,
but we got tons of dandelions right now.
We got that too.
Tulip poplars coming on. So, so we're getting ready for it now. Pretty much everybody that didn't get split this year, all my nukes that are in 10 frames building up, I'm content with just letting them build up, and then when they get strong enough, tossing a super on, and whatever I get out of the super, great. But
I'd love to see you get Bob, I'd love to see you get a really good honey crop.
Well, some of the colonies that didn't get split have 2 and 3 supers on them already. So, and one of them I pulled the box off yesterday to do a little bit of an inspection on it, and it was pretty heavy. So it was just about capped. I could probably pull it, do the shake test, and spin it out and give it back to them. So my goal is if these big colonies that I have are doing really well, when I spin their honey out, then by that time my weaker colonies should be ready for a super. And when I spin them out, I'm going to give them the drawn comb and give foundation to my stronger colonies. So hopefully they'll be able to pull out comb faster than the smaller ones. So we'll see. We'll see if it works or not. I am using some excluders, yes. Just on the ones that like to go up and lay into the supers. So I shake the queen down, put the excluder on. And they seem to be doing pretty well right now.
Catch up on all your woodwork, Brad?
Oh, no. I've got
what are you doing?
This side. I'm working on these pallets right now. I've got about half done those. I've got to make 160, and I've about half done them right now. So, that'll take me another week or two.
At
Depends
least.
on how many times I get torn away from the shop, and with nice weather, it might be a little more often. That's what rainy days are good for. It keeps you in the shop.
Yeah, I almost went.
And then I got to tie into 230 migratory covers when I get done that. So I'll be at this probably for the entire month of May, maybe longer.
So it sounds like to me you're in the wood shop year round then.
Understanding. Well, I try not to be, but there was a few delays this year in getting started. I had that eye thing going on, and that took more than a month out of my schedule, and then
Was that the one
actually
video where
had a
you're not
lot more
supposed to?
work to do.
That was where you couldn't
What's that?
lift and stuff like you couldn't lift and stuff.
Yeah, I can do anything.
Yeah.
I couldn't do anything for a month.
So
Actually, it
you
was
still
more than a
got
month.
you still got to make a lot more pallets for your customer.
My customer, yeah.
And the bad thing, he's in the chat right now saying, "Why is he on this chat when he should be building my pallets?" Right?
Should be building pallets. Like,
Well, it's a
Isn't it
day.
awesome?
Just give more Baileys. He won't care.
That's right.
Kraken,
That's right.
the Kraken.
I'm doing pretty good. Doing pretty good on those pallets.
Hey, Brian.
I spend a few hours in there, knock quite a few of them out.
Mm.
Yeah.
Well, with that in mind
Thanks for
here,
asking.
yeah, it looks like you're seeing okay, so that's good. Well, guys, you're seeing good.
Oh yeah, that
He got his eye
really
surgery.
fixed me up. I'm better than I've been in my entire life. I've never seen clearly my entire life, and now it's 2020.
What did
No
you
problem.
have? Cataracts or something?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. They just replaced that lens. They've got some
Hmm.
pretty high tech lenses now, so it's
Be really
pretty
cool if you
amazing.
got the transition lenses in there, and then when the sunny out, they just automatically darkened.
Yeah,
Glasses.
it actually has a UV filter.
Oh, does
It
it?
actually has a UV filter in it.
Oh,
Yeah.
no kidding. That makes sense.
Yeah, it does. It does.
That's a grand idea.
And I don't know. Like I've looked at their technology and how they'd explain it, but they make it so that you can your depth of focus is like infinity, and within like easy to read a menu in a restaurant, I can easily read my cell phone, and I can see
No shit.
Now,
a mile
now
away.
the question is can you graft without any magnification?
I was saying to
I
my
was
wife
just
today,
going to ask.
because this was my ace in the hole. My ace in the hole is gone, because with very poor vision, I could focus within 3 inches of my eye, and so I'd get my grafting tool, my little light, and get right up really, really close to it, and it was like literally picking up a hot dog with an egg flipper, right? Super easy, just
Really?
right out of a pot of water. Oh yeah, well, so close to it, right? I didn't have to have any magnification, but now I can't. So I need to figure out something different. Maybe I'll ruin my left eye doing the same thing.
Oh, goodness me.
Yeah,
No,
so
I
have to
gotta
learn that
have.
over again. I need to.
Yeah.
I gotta have. I wear these glasses here, which are like I call them kind of like reading glasses or my computer glasses, and then I put 1.5 magnification unit on, and I can do I can see quite well
For
with
grafting.
that, and yeah, for
Yeah,
grafting.
I bought
and then,
some 4x magnifiers for grafting. Hopefully they help.
Well,
I had these
I've
glasses
actually-
on and the 4 times magnifying, and it was easy for grafting, but the depth,
That's the problem.
Yeah, the depth perception was off.
Yeah.
How did that affect it?
Go
How
ahead.
they went?
How did it affect the depth, gentlemen?
Well, it just makes it so you can't really see, you can't really tell how close you are. The first time I
Yeah.
did it, I got the grafting tool. I'm looking in the big magnifier, and I've got the grafting tool, and I'm wondering, like, why am I not in the cell picking it up? And I looked around, the magnifier is 3 inches from the comb.
Yeah.
There's just not that depth
Yeah.
perception there.
It was to that extent. Okay, interesting.
Oh yeah,
It's like when I'm
definitely.
grafting, I make sure that these things are against my nose, these glasses,
Yeah,
and then you
Mhm.
bring out 1.5 down, and they flip or they hinge, so you have to kind of like tweak them a little bit, and then that depth perception is you're like you're seeing normal, I guess you would call it, and then you can do your thing and all. So Brian, did you get back from Greg's place down there over the weekend, doing whatever you were doing down there?
Tom went down there. I saw some photos on Facebook.
Who did? Tom? Oh yeah, he
picked up
got
his
one
hives
of what's his name's hives
from Ricky Rourke.
Yeah, I was watching Natalie. You know, she was putting a 5-frame nuke in one of hive like Lee got, and I'm like, okay, you got a really strong looking nuke there, and you're putting in basically in a hive that's a nuke, and I'm like, I don't understand what the advantage is there with that system. You know, because it's going to swarm if you don't do, expand it or do
Keep
something.
moving the follower board.
Is there a follower board in there?
Yeah, it's still a horizontal hive, right? So you can still keep moving the board down.
Oh, okay. I was listening to her and I was like, "Hon, know what you're talking about." You know, she says, "I think it's, this is the front and this is the back." And I'm like, it's like, if you're going to do a video, make sure you know what you're talking about.
Make sure there's a queen in the hive that you're going to,
Yeah, well, she had a bunch of pro nukes, and she was dropping, I think, a pro nuke. She was shown on the video she was dropping a pro nuke in. And
Michael Buck is asking about the strip of, you take the strip of the eggs and you tip them down and make some queens, and yeah, that you can do that.
Yeah, what's that?
I think one of the keys there is you have to open up the cell. You have to take a
no kidding. Okay.
eraser, and they'll just kind of break the wall of the cell to make it bigger, and then they just tip that so that it hangs down maybe between the top bars or something, and yeah, they'll make queens out of that. I mean, if you're running plastic foundation, that's kind of hard to do, but you could actually, there's videos online, guys take a whole frame and they'll put the whole frame face down on the top bars, or suspended above or something, and they have to do that too. They have to break the cell wall around the larva that they want to use, and they just put that so that the cells are then hanging this way, and then they make queens out of those.
It's right, so that works, but that seems like a shit ton of work compared to grafting.
Well, for sure, grafting definitely is the production model for throughput. If you want to make 5 or 8 cells, 10 maybe, yeah, OTS, that method, turning the cells in whatever method you want. Yeah, perfectly valid methods if you just want to make a few and if you don't want to graft.
I don't know. I find grafting to be very easy. The real worker is making sure you got a cell builder that's
that cell builder.
That's the key to it all, to get it right in order to put that frame in there.
Yeah,
I was watching
and
a
I
guy
agree, Charlie. Like, do the grafting, learn the grafting, practice the grafting, because it's not hard to do. Once you kind of get your technique down, you can do that so fast and so easy. The grafting is absolutely
it's like
a zero entity as far as your queen production goes. It's so
that's
easy.
like
So
the guys were talking here about the grafting, the Chinese grafting tool versus that. What's the one you got? That $60 tool there, Bob?
Premier or Pierce or
Master
Master tool. And I'm like, said they couldn't see, and I'm like, what do you mean you can't see? It's like, it's just, I guess what I'm saying is when you run that tool, that tongue, you go down the wall and it goes across and it bumps into the other wall, and then you just pull it out and then look at it and see if you picked it up.
And the thing is, to me, is you can't really teach somebody grafting because everybody's sight is different. Everybody's dexterity is different.
Yeah.
Everybody's, how they, all that kind of stuff. So what you need to do is you need to just know what you need to accomplish, and then you need to try it until you figure out your method of doing it. You need to have the right magnification, the right lighting, the right angle on your comb, the right age of comb. You just keep doing it. You have to practice until you see people, they sit in a beautiful concert, somebody's playing a beautiful piano or the violin or something. People sit there and say, oh man, I wish I could play violin like that. And they don't. because this guy's just spent 40 years practicing violin for 10 hours a day. Like,
Yep.
no, you don't. You think you want to know how to play violin like that,
I've been around
great
it.
because
comparison,
you're not
Brad.
willing to do that. What's
Yeah,
that,
and
Mike?
it's like as I call it, I have friends of mine who are musicians and stuff, and it's like I tell people, I said, well, it's in their blood. I said their parents played and their grandparents played, and I said their great grandparents played. I got a friend of mine's a fiddler, and he, I taught him how to do bees, and he can go all the way back to Galax, Virginia, and it's like 3 generations or 4 generations back, and they're playing music back then, and he has that gift. And it's just he can hear the music and he can just it comes through his fingers and he knows how to
Yeah,
do it.
the analogy I was trying to get at was you don't come out of the womb knowing how to play violin. You don't come out of the womb knowing how to graft. You pick it up and you do it. It's like the people that know how
Yeah,
to, the people who can do it because they've tried, and they've tried over and over and over again,
yeah,
and they've failed for probably
right.
years
Well, that's like I
or
watched.
months.
I went down to Georgia, and we had to lay over, and they were grafting on a daily basis down there, and now they prime their cells, and they're doing like 2,500 cells a day, and they're using pieces of like copper wire that they actually peened out to like a little spoon them, and
Little
they own
spoon,
and
yeah.
yeah, and that's their tool, and you don't mess with their tool. And they're going bing bing bing, they're going across that comb and they're breaking the cell wall down as they're picking up that larvae. And shoot, they're doing, I guarantee you they're probably doing 30 cups a minute, at least. They just going across there like crazy.
Oh, I see.
And
You see the
but that's
guys on
what they
Bob's
do every
videos.
day.
They're using Chinese grafting tools, but you see them. They're just literally they just go flick in the cup, flick in the cup. Like that's how fast they're grafting in a cup.
Yeah.
Like that's how fast. And they didn't get it that fast the first day or the first week.
Yeah.
They've been doing it
No,
for
Brad,
years. And so
we got
just
your
do it.
points. Charlie's just giving you crap.
Yeah.
Did you?
No, I'm not. No, but
That's
I mean,
okay,
it was
Charlie.
like I was watching them down there, and like, how in the world did you go that fast? And of course, that they don't have to worry
Yeah.
about everything's coming out of a timing box, so they know all the eggs are the same age, so they just pick it up and go, and pick it up and go.
Well,
And
yeah,
then,
there's little things like that you can do to make it, a little
yeah,
quicker, a little more sure,
Yeah,
a
muscle
little
memory. Yeah.
easier. I'm sorry I go on and on about it, but the number of times I've heard people, "Oh, I can't do that." Well, of course you can't. You haven't tried.
that's right. And then
You
that's
know,
like
For
Ian
the-
or what was his name? Out in Kentucky, Kent Williams taught me how to do that down in Tennessee back in 2019, I think it was, and he was trying to explain how to look at larvae to get the age just right. And he was talking about, looking at the eggs and doing all this stuff, and then marking in it and all this, and it didn't work out because the egg was older than what I thought it was. And then I finally figured it out on my own, where you go in there and you find jelly, but you can't see anything floating in the jelly. And I'm like, that's the perfect frame right there,
you
because
betcha.
they don't put jelly in a cell unless there's an egg or a larvae in there. And
Right.
that's the best way I explain to anybody. I said, when you see jelly, but you can't see anything but jelly, that's the perfect frame to
One
grab
thing
from.
when I started trying to pick them up. I tried it, and I was having a terrible time trying to pick these things up. I couldn't pick them up. And then, why can't I pick this thing up? And I worked on it for the longest time, and then I realized that if you can't pick them up, they're guaranteed too old,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because they're not floating, right?
Right.
The youngest ones are floating in the jelly. You get under them. If they're too old, they're not floating. You can't get under them. You can't pick them up.
Right. And then it's like the one lady I was listening to her. She's down in Florida someplace. She's some new girl or lady that I've just listened to, and she had a nice analogy. You know, they always kept saying, "Don't you want the larvae?" And she was talking about the position of the larvae, and they used to say the C position, and then she said, "No, you don't want the C. You want the banana. It looks like a banana."
Right.
And I'm like,
Right.
and I had never anybody say that description. And I'm like, you know
No,
what? I says, that's a good analogy. It looks like a
Charlie, I was
banana.
talking about this close vision thing that I was doing, and
Yeah.
my analogy with the egg clipper. Well, literally, I've picked up and grafted larvae that were straight. They
Hmm.
were so young that they probably had hatched within the hour,
Yeah.
and it's literally like a tiny piece of hair, and I could hardly see it, but I could see it, and I got it
Hmm.
out of there, and I got it in the cup, and I'm sure I didn't flip it over. So you're right. They'll hatch and they're straight, and then they start to do the banana, and that's what you want.
Yeah.
Not that,
No, you
right?
don't want
You
that.
want that little curve.
But she said that on that video
That
today. I says, that's a good analogy. I like that. So
that's what
Hope I
Mel
didn't hit
Discipline
the
always
email.
says when you're choosing larvae. He says if you can't see them, it's perfect.
yeah, that's
So,
right.
but your
but
hands are
it's true.
steady enough to do that, though. That's impressive.
Well, I mean, it's
Well,
like I tell people, I got in my left hand, I have an LED flashlight. It's about 3 inches long. And you
Hmm.
sit there and go back with that light, and you can make that larvae glisten in the light. And then
yeah,
just, and then I always, it's on the bananas, the curved side, you come down with that tongue and scoop up underneath of it. Because, like Kent told me, he says, you're not lifting up the larvae, you're lifting up the jelly that happens to have a larvae on top of it. And then
right,
you scoot the larvae off that has not the larvae, you scoot the jelly off with that plunger, and it slides off. But
right,
the main thing of it is, if you got to get a hive that you really, if you want to graft, if you want to choose a hive and that's the queen that you like, then you really need to feed that hive so there's plenty of jelly in there to get them things,
exactly.
uh,
You're
up
trying to
this
graft in a
those
dirt.
hoe.
That's tough to do. That's tough to do. You're right, Charlie. When you're talking about, turning the light and to see those little tiny ones, you think, well, it's not there. You can see that there's a dot of jelly, but you think, man, is there anything else? You turn it a little bit, and then you can start to see those ribs in the larva. You
Yeah.
know how they're kind of built like the Michelin Man. They kind of got little
Kind of like me.
little ribs all the way along. And
Yeah,
yeah,
Brian
so
said, yeah, her channel name is Butts Bees, Butts. She's down there in Florida someplace.
She's good, but she doesn't have that many subs unusually.
Mm,
I thought she would.
I don't know. I seen her and I'm like, oh, I'll listen to her for a while, see what she does, and it's something to listen to. And she has some pretty good information and all. But
Hope I never got that
really
email you said you sent.
can't wait to try
mm,
again. Try again.
yeah, I got. I'm hoping I'm gonna get. I hope. Well, this week is going to be crappy weather, so we'll see what. I'll wait till it gets a little warmer next time.
It's supposed to be 4 degrees cooler tomorrow than it was today. So 71 tomorrow it says.
Yeah. So anyway, but that's what I've been doing, is trying to graft and trying to beat the weather and in between storms and everything else.
You guys doing all good for wind?
Yeah, I don't have many wind problems because of where my apiary sits and the trees.
Yeah, Russell, I'm signing off here too. We'll talk to you in the morning there. Gentlemen, a really interesting conversation on grafting. Really appreciate that.
Yeah, we seem to talk about that all the time, but I always like it. I think it's fun.
No, but every now and then somebody up with a tidbit you totally forgot about, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, well, it's like,
Oh,
like
absolutely.
the lady they're talking about, describing the larvae looking like a banana, and I think that's a good analogy For somebody that's just starting out, then they get that in their idea and not the C, and which is older. And then, like I say, when I tell people, I said, look for the jelly. And if you can't see anything, that's the place you want to graft.
Doug and Stacy are where near Dr. Leo is, wherever that is.
Yeah, the crazy Russian. Well,
he's out in Minnesota, or I don't know. He's out there.
The Russian is not in Minnesota. Believe me, if he was, I would let you know.
He's out there in the Midwest someplace.
Yeah. So, speaking of jelly, one little side thing. You guys are talking about ideally you want to swim in the jelly. Richard Knoll did a fantastic talk on the title is "It's All About the Jelly." He's talking about grafting, but I ran into a Norwegian beekeeper in the old country there, and he was actually using part of his spit to pick up some of the larvae. So he was saliva priming it.
Southeastern says he's in the Ozarks, wherever that's at.
Yeah, North Carolina.
No.
Ozarks are North Carolina.
I'm sorry, gentlemen. But that's what he was doing. He was doing. Okay, guys, I got to take off here. You have a great night. Bye-bye.
Take care of yourself, Mike. Good night.
I will. Swaddle.
Yeah, well, it's getting late. Ozarks, I think that's out in Missouri or Missouri.
Arkansas, Missouri.
Ryan says Missouri. Other guy says Arkansas.
And I've seen their beekeeping videos, but it's always when Dr. Leo has been there. It hadn't been them actually working bees, so I don't know.
Who's that?
Doug and Stacy.
Oh, I don't know. You know, they're doing.
I saw one hive that it was a horizontal hive or a long hive, and Dr. Leo went out there and opened it up, and there were so many hive beetles in that hive. I was like, that hive's dead already. They just don't know it yet. And the next video they came back to review, gone. Bees gone. I was like, yep, I knew it.
He had it out there in the woods too, I think.
Well, they don't.
They all, he's talking about, I think his thing was
no treatment, nothing.
No treatment free. And then he was also talking about that the hive itself was going to make a difference. And I'm like, the box doesn't make a difference except maybe insulation in the wintertime.
Well, I mean, if you see some of the stuff that you're pulling swarms out of, water meter boxes, trash cans, under people's floors, all over the place. Bees can live as long as they can stay warm and dry. Probably.
Here's something that I learned this week. I get to watch these YouTube videos while I'm building in the shop, and I watched a Randy Oliver presentation. I won't apologize for being a huge Randy Oliver fan. And part of his presentation, he was talking about queens. He was talking about bees, the matriline, the mitochondrial DNA traceability in queens, and he said you could trace that to the first bee like 40 million years ago if you want to do the work. And so anyway, what he showed was the diversity in the lineage of commercially managed bees in the United States, and in a pie chart. And there was, one great big piece and then about 3 or 4 other little pieces. And then he showed the genetic diversity of feral colonies in the United States. And there's like 3 times as many pie pieces in the feral colonies. And what he was saying was this is consistent, that the managed bees don't have the genetic diversity when you talk about their lineage that the feral colonies do. So his comment on that was, if you're trying to do treatment-free beekeeping and you're sourcing commercially sourced bees, not going to work. You need feral bees. You need feral swarms if you're going to have a chance to do treatment-free beekeeping. So I thought that was really interesting, that there was such a remarkable difference in those lineages for those bees.
Then the question is that, is there really any feral bees out there left, because of Varroa? I mean, I watched
Well,
Dr.
that data answers that, though. That's kind of, one of the things it answers. It says emphatically yes, because the feral bees that are found in, tree cavities, all these bees that
Right.
Seeley finds and all this kind of stuff. He says that they have a completely different diversity of matriline in their genetics than the commercially available and managed bees in the country. So there's two very distinct sets there. So I think that answers definitively, absolutely yes, there are
it was
feral
Dr.
bees
Seeley
out
is what
there
I was
still.
thinking about. He was,
Yeah.
I was at a conference where he was at, and he was talking about Varroa, and I'm talking about solitary bees and all these other types of bees out there in the country or in the world or our area. And I think we lost. He said the list was like, a mile long, and we lost at least over half or a third of those because of Varroa coming in, these solitary bees and stuff. And then he was up there in that forest there that's kind of out in the middle of nowhere, where he was checking out, kind of experiment, well, like you say, with the feral bees. And he mapped them out where they were located, and they were so many, a quarter of a mile apart or whatever it was, between one tree and the next tree. He actually had one person who had a set of hives close to the edge of this here land area. And it was where they swarmed a lot, where they were able to overcome Varroa that way. And I guess you might say natural brood breaks and things of that nature. And he was coming out with all these different experiments and things of that nature, where like we have, like mine are all in a row like that. Whereas he was experimenting where you had a big apiary that you had one or two hives here, and then there wasn't anything for so many feet, and another one's setting there, and it was trying to figure all this stuff
800
out.
meters his number is 800 meters, and that's half a mile, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
I say
how do
we
you manage
approach
bees like
Mark
that?
Dude for a popcorn sponsorship. For the show.
I don't know. Ian says Albert or Saskatraz queens will look at the same as wild bees. I don't know.
I don't know. I know his Saskatraz queens didn't work very well down here in South Carolina.
It'd be interesting to know. My guess would be that, well, Randy doesn't make generalizations very easily, and I wouldn't think that they're too much different. And he was talking about selection of this and selection of that, and he made the point that I've heard before too, that you select for something, you're selecting against one or more other things.
Mm-hmm.
So, just be careful what you wish for, sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's like you got the folks out here, they talking about pesticides and killing the bees, and they want to get rid of the what is that? It's what they put on seeds. It's
Neonicotinoids.
Neonics. And then you listen to like Bob Binney's video where he had the guy who's a commercial beekeeper, and he said he was putting hives close to cotton fields in the deep south, and they were spraying pesticides like everybody used to do. They used to spray corn constantly for the corn worm and whatever. Then they come out with the neonics, and now you don't spray for the pest because the plant is automatically if the pest eats it, it dies. And the only thing that they still are spraying would be like a antifungal spray, which is not, they are finding out that that's, not good for the bees. And it's like, you're cursing the neonic issue, but actually it's more beneficial because you're not spraying an aerial spray on your plants where the bees can land on it and die from that. And I don't think they're dying from the tainted pollen, I guess, out of these plants.
Seems
so
like the lesser of two evils in some ways.
Yeah, in some ways, yes. If you get the true
those old chemicals were just brutal.
Yeah,
the residue would last for 100 years and all this kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm. Now it's like no-till corn and stuff like that. Well, I'm not crazy about that at all because I look at that stuff. You're killing the grass and everything else in 24 hours. And I'm like, well, they'll say, well, it dissipates in so many hours or days or whatever. And I said, well, there's always a residue. And it's going to get in our water table. If you spray the same stuff 50 years in the same field, it's going to build up in that field. In my, understanding. And I don't know. And, it just, what do you want? You want spray in your water or you want mud in your rivers? As far as topsoil goes.
It's a tough thing. It's a really tough thing because the world's got to eat.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's got to eat. And that's what most people, old chemistry was pretty toxic, killed farmers too. Yeah, that's exactly right.
All right. So you're right. We got to eat. But here we are paying farmers not to plant stuff, right, in the States. So you think if they would stop the spraying and allow everybody to plant, then whatever you're losing from the pests, you would be equalizing between farmers that were subsidizing, paying them not to grow. I mean,
yeah, we used to do that years ago. That was called the land bank. They used to pay for that. I think that was more to keep the price of the product up for the farmer.
Right.
But I don't know. I mean, there is a new thing out now, regenerative farming, where they're trying to plant, let's say clovers or something like that amongst the corn, which are putting nitrogen in the ground, but it also attracts positive bugs in order to eat the pest that's, on the plant that you're trying to make a cash crop out of. So, well, it's 11 o'clock, a little after right now. It's time to go to bed. I think have to get up and go to work tomorrow.
I got a meeting first.
I don't think we're going to solve the world's problems here tonight.
No.
Those are complicated issues right there.
They are very much so. There's not a lot of, it's hard to figure all that out. And I don't think sometimes I don't think you can. So,
yep.
But,
all right, guys. Well, Tuesday night, I think we're on my channel this Tuesday. We were on Lee's last week. So
thanks for coming on, Brad. Good to talk.
Hey, always fun.
Bringing the brains to the operation here when you come on, Brad.
Oh, come on. Charlie does that.
I don't think so. Nah, I enjoy, I like the intellectual conversation about, different aspects of beekeeping and stuff and all that stuff. So,
oh yeah, my wife doesn't get it. Talk bees all day long. You can talk bees all day long. Well, yeah, you can. There's so many different aspects to it, and it's more art than science.
It absolutely is. It's an art form.
Like Mike was saying, you'll say something, Charlie, and Bob will say something, and it'll just make an idea go in my head, and I'll think, gee, I got to try that, or maybe that's where I'm going wrong, or maybe, Just
It's just
sharing
like
different ideas.
you were saying about like I was talking about the cell builder. And then you're saying, well, you can move them when you bring up them brood frames and above the queen excluder, like on my nukes and stuff like that, or any of my highs. I'm like, oh, you're going to bring your nurse bees up. Not only can you harvest nurse bees and brood for your cell builder, but you can also move them nurse bees throughout your hive or your apiary locally in the same area without the majority of them going back to the main hive, which is
and
little
the ones that fly back are the ones you don't want anyway in your builder.
right. But it's something like that to me. It's like, why did I think about that 5 years ago? Or it just never come to you, But if like somebody like you points that out, like, oh, what a brain idea, what a great idea.
Well, we all give that to each other. We all get those. I get lots of those from you guys and others I watch.
Yeah. It's just like you and your pallets there. I mean, I was watching you move there was that set of hives that was going on that other, you were explaining how you had the big pallet that you put the 2 or the 4 hives on top of that pallet. And I wasn't quite comprehend. I mean, I kind of knew what you were saying, but then I seen you doing it, putting that one pallet sliding across. And most people probably didn't even look at this, but I'm looking, oh, look how that thing locked into that pallet. He's got it figured out that it locks right in.
Yeah, I call that my stand, and my stand is built to the profile of my covers so that my pallets lock right into them.
Yeah. And then you had mentioned about the entrances are facing.
Yeah, they face each other.
They face each other.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, oh, I see what you got the frame. You can go around the sideways and do the frames this way. And now down here we had a guy, they called that the warm way, where the
if you put the entrance on the long side of the frame, that's the warm side, I think.
Yeah, it talks about that being the warm way, or like Mr. Ed, he has an entrance where the bees go in and then they have to go up into the box. It isn't a straight.
Oh yeah.
It's like they have to go underneath the lip of the box and stuff. I
realize it's change in equipment, but this is not to belabor this, but I've always wondered, because I see all these YouTube people, and I know it's kind of set up so that you can put the camera and then you can have the guy behind the hives and you can have, do your YouTube thing or whatever. But I see them doing this all the time. Reaching over there and getting this frame out, and then reaching over and getting this frame out, get this frame out. I'm sitting down at my house pulling frames like this all day long. Super easy. So it dawned on me one day, I kind of thought, well, if I was going to do that, like I see why they're doing that, because they want to do the YouTube video thing. But I'm thinking, why don't you turn that hive a quarter turn, build yourself a different bottom board, put it so the entrance is the warm way, so it's on the side of the frames instead of the end of the frames.
Mm-hmm.
Now you've got the same exact configuration, and now you're picking up your frames, in much more ergonomically friendly way.
Yeah.
I think that should work, shouldn't it?
Well, that's like my stands there that you can't see them right here close by where the nukes are, but I have them set up down there at the honey hive area where they're like 7 feet long, and I have a hive on either end. And I said, well, I want that space in the middle so I can put 2 lids down, and it's up off the ground. It's higher, like you said about the rack that you put your other pallets on top. The stands, it raises it up that you don't bend your back over so bad. And it just works. I said it just, for me, it works out better that way and all. And I don't know. I mean, actually, after looking at your setup, it's like, that would have been, even though I'm not a commercial beekeeper, that'd be a pretty good way of just doing bees in general. Everything is palletized. It'd be easier and everything. So
I like the fact that
work well.
When you open them up and you got a hot hive, when they're lower, they're not coming right at your nut sack like they are on the hive stand. They're just like.
If I'm sitting there, they are. I go right up my shorts.
Mm,
Charlie knows.
yeah. I don't see how you can go out there and the way, I know what the temperature is, but you're in moderately dressed clothes, and I'm like, "Man, aren't you cold?" I mean, I'd be out there all
I'll
bundled
be out
up.
there in shorts on Tuesday, probably. Tuesday, Wednesday, I'll be in shorts.
And what's the temperature? 50 degrees, 60 degrees,
No, it'll be room temperature. Like it'll be,
70.
68 something,
Well,
68
that's not
F
too bad. That's
kind of
not,
thing.
that's not overly warm,
I'm a Canadian. I'm used to it being cold. So once it starts to
Yeah.
get
Yeah.
above room temperature, I sweat to death.
Yeah. I guess that's true. All right. I'm bugging out. I'll see you guys
Yeah,
later.
I got to run too.
It's
All
quarter
right.
out.
All right, guys.
See ya.
All right.
Yeah, have a
Bye.
good one.
Have a
Thanks
great
for
night.
showing up, everyone. Good night.
All right. Good night.